We live. All right, everybody. Welcome to the Live Wells Tuesday Nighter here at Fish North Georgia. We are so glad you could join us tonight. Going to have a great show, some good talk about fall bass fishing and, kind of some of the techniques and things that these two guys beside me like to do to put more fish in the boat. So want to take care of a couple of things before we get started. All right, first, if you're watching us on YouTube tonight, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. We appreciate you guys. Click that notification bell so you get all the latest content. Make sure you follow Fish North Georgia, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, you name it, we're out there. So make sure you take part in that. Give us a thumbs up. That kind of helps the algorithm, or at least that's what we've been told. So, got Jonathan Farmer right here to my left tonight, right there in all his glory. What's up, Tony? And then Mr. Question of the Week himself, Clint Bartlett's in the house.
What's up
tonight?
everybody?
So cool thing about tonight is I've got two different perspectives when it comes to fall fishing for bass. I got Mr. Bank Beater shallow water power guy over here. And he can go deep every once in a while, but he likes to stay shallow.
Don't like to.
And then, Clint, I'm not gonna call you a scoper, but you like that.
I'm offshore guy.
Offshore guy right there.
I like dragging something offshore.
Yeah, drag it. There you go. So NC Bass Puller, what's up tonight? Appreciate you joining us. Luke Turner, what's up? Tony, always. You guys need to follow him too. He's pretty funny.
He's got some cool stuff.
So hey, and that's another thing, guys. If you're watching in the comment section, if you got a YouTube channel or something like that, or TikTok or something, throw it up there so that people that are watching can check you out. And also, listen, we back. There we go. There's Joshua. Yes, sir. Hey, needed a week off. I'm old. I needed a rest right there. Got my son married, and now we're done with that. Now we can just watch football and talk fishing. I want to make one announcement. I promised some viewers that I would do that about a tournament, a benefit tournament that's going on. It's the Fishers of Hope are putting on a tournament that's going to benefit Union County High School's FFA. All right, it's Saturday, October 12th at Gibson. Make sure I read this right. Gibson Cove Boat Ramp on Lake Chattooga. Pretty beautiful lake right there. The weigh-in's going to be at 2. Entry fee $60. You also can buy a $10 barbecue plate. Can't go wrong with barbecue. The payout is $500 for first, $300 for second. Third gets $200. They got a big fish of $100. And for Jonathan Farmer, they got a small fish for $50 right there. Guaranteed paid out with 20 boats. Now, if you want to, and Josh, if you listen, you might be able to, I'll say it slow so you might be able to type it. You need to contact Tony Watkins at 706-897-7557. That's Tony Watkins, 706-897-7557. Let's see, did you get that right there? There we go. Yeah, he's got it all right. All right, hit that one. And then I'm going to give one more number, an alternative number to K Watkins. There it is. So there's Tony's number, K Watkins. There we go, 706-207-6842. There we go. Got it in the comment section right there. So hey, listen. So if you want to help out the Union County High School's FFA, which you should, take part in this tournament on October 12th up at Lake Chattooga. So guarantee you a good time. And yeah, we got all that. And also too, right behind me, I just want you to see. You can see that pretty bona fide kayak we got right there. We got some a product from Festive Waters up here at the shop. So if you guys are interested in a kayak and you can't get out to Festive Waters on Highway 369, come in the shop, check out this bona fide. What did we say it was, Josh? I had it written down as SS107. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I think that's
SS107. Anyway, let me just say it's gray and it floats and it sits good and it's pretty and you'll have a good time fishing out of it. But come up here and check it out. Trying to, share the love with all you kayaker guys up here in North Georgia. So anyway, this is for me personally. If you guys are watching the Braves game, keep me updated on the score, right? Because I know some of you guys got the TV on and you're watching the Braves, but you're listening to us, and we appreciate you doing that. So Ken Burke, what's up? Thank you. Finally, like I said, married my son off, and got him a good one right there. Philip Hutchinson, good to see you again. Farmer is now a trout guy. We just brought him in here, to share his knowledge on bass fishing, but he is now a bona fide fly fishing trout guy. So it's a big ass pair of waders you're gonna have to put on when it gets cold there.
And trust me, when it gets cold, I'm not trout fishing anymore. I'm bass fishing.
You're bass fishing, so you're a fair weathered trout guy, right?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. All right, there you go, Tony. So, hey, appreciate you guys doing that tournament, and I hope you guys raise a lot of money and have a good time. But hey, save me a barbecue plate or something. Just ship it to me right there. So, he and I talked about it. So you've had conversations with him about fly fishing there, huh?
I have. I really enjoy fly fishing.
It is fun. It's fun.
I've gained a little weight since the last time I fly fished. My waders don't fit anymore, and I'm not dropping $200, $300 on waders.
Don't be a cheap ass right there. So, Jeffrey Johnson, what's up? Watching from South Florida. Dude, it's about to get wet.
Yeah.
It's about to get wet. Now, Thursday night, right now, we're scheduled to have Emil Wagner on and possibly Paul Marks Jr. as well. All right. Paul was going to go out of town, but the weather might actually keep him in town, which is good. He'll come on the show. However, if we get some pretty bad winds, we might not have power here. We'll just have to see. But we plan on coming Thursday night. So
don't call me.
That'd be a cool show to have both of those.
Both of them. Think about it. 2 young guys from the local area that pretty much
are out there making it.
They're making it. They just have decent showing at Hartwell. They're on the elites, baby.
I was going to say both of them qualified for the elites after Hartwell, didn't they?
Well, Hartwell's the last tournament.
Yeah, Hartwell's in 2 weeks.
And if I'm not mistaken, I might be wrong, but I think Emil's sitting in 4th and Paul's sitting in 6th. They pretty much is it reversed? Okay, Paul's in 4th and Emil's in 6th.
Something like that. I think Emil's in 6th.
Okay, so they're close.
I talked to them.
They have a good, decent tournament. They're in, so that'd be a really cool show that we hope to bring you Thursday night. But hey, right now let's talk about what we're doing here: fall bass fishing. Okay. We talked about the transition with Ryan and them a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. Lake's getting ready to turn over. If some haven't already started, Shane from East Tennessee, they hurricane party in North Georgia. Hey, listen, if you guys want to come shack up at the shop, bring your own beer. We can make a night out of it here. Oh, yeah. we can do that.
I'll be get bona
fide.
Yeah. Eric B. Richard, Bass today on Lanier seemed to be trying to school, only staying up for less than 10 seconds. Wouldn't bite. Yes, right there. Yep. So, hey, totally get it. I've heard that. Now, these guys have fished. They fished 1-0 Braves, bottom of the 3rd. Thank you there, Phil. Appreciate it. I love you guys. You guys are the best viewers out there. You both have, you've been on Lanier. You both fished Allatoona.
Yep.
You and I fished Gunnersville 2 Sundays ago. I don't know how much the fall bite Gunnersville. We'll get into Gunnersville in a little bit, but let's talk a little bit of Allatoona and Lanier. Clint, you can start. I mean, what did you see? You were on Lanier Saturday.
Yep. So went out to Lanier Saturday, got off work and had the weekend free to go bassing and actually put in some time. So that was fun. So I got over there daylight and went around, caught a couple on a fluke. Nothing too crazy, just kind of poking around offshore. And then the bite was honestly pretty tough for me. I just tried to bounce around, fish new water, and just kind of explore around. But like there was fish everywhere. Like everywhere I went, there's fish, there's bait. But getting them to bite was a whole nother story. I mean, it's the standard Lanier of as soon as they shoot right up to it out of 20 foot of water, and then they're like,
they're gone.
And they're gone. So that was one of the hardest parts, was just like dealing with that frustration, like working through, okay, is it a color change? I mean, you're changing baits so much because being able to have forward facing technology and like seeing that instant feedback, like you are getting that instant feedback, but it's the same thing as going down the bank. Like you don't know, there could have been fish there the whole time too. So that's one of the things of like, you got to be bouncing around covering water. Cause you can do one of two things. You can either change baits a lot and figure out what those fish are going to eat, or you can bounce around an absolute ton with the baits you want to throw.
Right.
And I get stuck more on the side of soaking in an area, trying to figure out what they'll eat, because like ultimately what I want to do is figure out, okay, if I can make these pressured fish eat here and figure out what they're going to eat, then I'll go replicate it all over the lake. And that was kind of how I
it's a good
approached it. Yeah.
It's a great plan. It doesn't always work.
In theory.
So like Joshua says right there, I've seen some questionable tannic water and tiny bait really high around Little Hall. Mm-hmm. Now, a couple weeks ago, Ryan said that on the show, I don't know if Ryan said it or if our viewers said it, the turnover was kind of starting up in the north part of the lake. So I imagine it might have had time to work its way down. Did the hot weather, though, do you think that we've had the last week, can that slow it down?
It paused it.
Yeah,
because the water temp jumped back up to 80 degrees. So it's gotten the water temp's got warmer again than your bottom layer.
Yeah. And how the hell is this hurricane going to affect it?
If we get as much rain as they say, is that surface temp's going to drop dramatically.
It's got to.
If we're going to get that, what are they calling for now? 8, 9, 10 inches.
I've seen anywhere from 5 to 10 inches. 5 to 10 inches.
It may. I don't even know. It may prolong the turnover. It may make it go faster. So
right. Who the hell knows, right?
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
I bet you they'll bite good during that thing, though.
See, that's what we were talking about in the shop today.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's dangerous to be out there. But I bet you during that thing, nasty weather, I bet you it could be
chewing. They'll be chewing OG probably, honestly. Like the crazy thing, I've thrown the OG for a long time. And the best bites I ever get is when it is just nasty. You're doing this, bouncing all over the place. And it's not from wake boats. It's actually from wind.
Yeah. For
once. And like that's when the bite is awesome. When you got that wind and they're willing to come up, because like the thing is it just takes the pressure off. I feel like when you have that rough and that fish, instead of shooting up in calm water and getting a good look at it, as soon as it gets up there and going straight down, I mean, he's just like sending it and being like, I think that's a herring.
Yeah,
and then
I got to invest some time in trying to catch that thing.
And dude, they'll come rocket ship. Like it'll look like Shark Week out there. And it's a lot of fun. So, I mean, I'm really tempted to lay out of work one day, but I don't know if I'll do that.
Well, hey, if we ain't got no power Friday, call me up. We might, that might be a good day.
Sneak out there, yeah.
So Dane Hunter says, I'm saving my Gunnersville question for Farmer for that segment. So we are going to talk Gunnersville, and I'm not going to lie to you. It wouldn't bother me if I never saw another grass lake for the rest of my life. That was different. There ain't no damn rocks anywhere we was at. Just grass.
And 22 rock on that lake.
22 different types of grass that we're going through. So that was different. We'll talk Gunnersville. And again, like guys, if you guys got any questions, of course, in the comment section, you know how this show works. Throw them out there. And it can be for Gunnersville. We're just going to nail it all. We're just going to have some good talk tonight. Now, but again, like I mentioned at the beginning, you're kind of the offshore guy, so you're doing that.
Yeah.
Jonathan, you're the bank beater. Mm-hmm. All right. So you were on Allatoona, Gunnersville with us two Saturdays ago, Allatoona Sunday.
Yeah.
Was
out there Wednesday and Thursday of last week as well.
On Allatoona, pre-fishing?
No, just fun fishing.
Dane didn't have you on like a seeking, reconnaissance thing, just fun fishing. Oh, well, tell me.
Fun fishing, finding something for me and my little boy to do. My little boy had been begging me to go fishing with me, so
got some good videos. So, guys, if you don't follow Farmer on TikTok, you should. It's Big John. Big John, like how original. Yeah. Big John. Huh? We need to come up with a better screen name.
Yeah.
Let me decide. We'll work on that.
FarmersOnly.com.
Farmers Only. Why the hell didn't you think of that? Farmers Only right there. Appreciate it, Phil.
Your live well doesn't have to be lonely at FarmersOnly.com.
Damn, dude, you come up with that quick.
Yeah,
that's good.
Fast.
Marketing but anyway, he's got some good videos. And if you really want to hear how a buzzbait is supposed to sound, go check out on TikTok his last couple ones and just turn the volume up, be really, really quiet. The way a perfectly tuned buzzbait is supposed to sound, you'll hear it on that video. There's Tim McGuire. Farmer and I found grass mats holding fish that circled that thing like sharks. Yeah, hell, y'all's on the only one. Yeah, I didn't find nothing. Punch for the first time in my life.
We'll talk
about
it. It's a lot of fun.
Are you serious?
Oh, yeah.
We'll discuss that shortly.
My PB to this day is from punching. When I learned how.
We need to get him out there because I don't think y'all caught one punching. Is when the punching bite's good and you sit there and swing and all you hear is that braid against that grass.
Well, we didn't know. What's up, Rob? Sorry you guys got canceled down there in Florida. I hate it because I know that's a long trip down there, but of course we'd rather see you guys safe. And I need to get with you. With Stephanie that fishes the NPFL is going to be a guest here soon, so that might be pretty cool.
Be a cool show. For sure.
Yeah, and Cody Stahl.
Okay,
Cody.
Yeah, he just won. Right?
He just won that last tournament on the Opens, right?
Yep.
Talk to him. He's going to come on. So we're going to try to work out all you famous people that can fish. But anyway, Farmer, back to what we were talking about before we got off on the Gunnersville tangent, which we will go back to. What did you see on Allatoona as far as the shallow bite and turnover, weather, whatever the hell you saw? How was it?
I mean, the shallow bite Wednesday and Thursday, right after that last hurricane pushed through, was phenomenal. I went over and fished shallow and caught. I only went over for 4 hours each day and caught 22, 24 each day. I was over shallow. As far as Sunday goes, when the temperatures got back up, morning bite or shallow bite was over about 10:30.
About 10:30. Yeah.
And once that sun finally crested over the trees, it was done.
That's about typical though for a summertime, early fall pattern, right?
It was done. They moved off a little bit,
right?
But you couldn't get them to bite after that sun got up.
Now, does Alatuna, because they draw it down, does it even experience a turnover?
Yes.
Oh, 100%.
It's where its turnover is actually it's faster than like Lanier's. It's about 2 weeks before Lanier flips.
Okay.
So whenever I see Lanier, which I saw Altoona on the north end up on, I guess that's Bell's Ferry or something like that up there near Knox Bridge, you can already see it starting to bubble and
Knox Bridge. That's the thing that goes under the thing. That's the part that goes under 20 right there.
Yeah.
Up by Stamp Creek.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I know that part.
It was already starting. You're already starting to see the telltale signs of flip. The dirtier water, which it's always dirty up there, but that kind of brownish looking, that crap color to the water.
For sure.
Yeah. And you started seeing bubbles come up, and
it looks like somebody ate a breakfast burrito at blast off and had to take care of that.
Kevin off the back of the boat right there. So, okay, but you're talking just that visual. And here's the thing is I was on Dave Aldridge's boat this couple of Saturdays ago. I about fell in, and I can't figure out how that man even can do what he does to use the bathroom. I was just trying to pee off the back of the boat. And you know that
you're trying to put your butt against the motor and pee?
No, I had my foot right down in front of the motor, and then I thought it was this hard piece of metal. Well, it was a ladder. So I put my foot down it. The ladder opened up, and there went fat ass Danny just flopping like a beach whale on the back of the boat. I'm still sore from it.
I'm glad I didn't notice it.
You fell in the water?
No. I went knee deep on that other one, on one leg.
Okay.
But I was able to save myself. But it hurt. I'm old, dude. Yeah. I'm old. I'm still sore.
Just split on the boat.
I just split, but I didn't think about it being a ladder and they fold out. I thought it was something stationary right there. Yeah. But anyway, but in that whole thing, I'm looking back going, I can't figure out how Kevin can actually pull that off. You know what I'm saying?
I got a little secret.
Should we do a video? We need to do a video. How to take a dump off the back of the boat.
That'd be a great video. If I would have known that 5 years ago.
I missed that one.
Yeah.
Is there a video on YouTube about how to take a dump off the back of the boat? Not this hanging off the side.
Dude, I got the system.
Back. You got the system?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right.
Let's do it. I'd like to do that. So Ian Freeman, Clint knows all about morning burritos and having to jump in.
I've done that.
You've done that a time or two. So
I did that on Alatuna 3 weeks ago.
What's up, Harold Grizzle? Okay, I know we're supposed to be talking fishing, but that is kind of a, man's got to go.
It's an important thing to know.
It is.
I had to do it in a Bassmaster Open one time. I got all kinds of crazy stories about number 2 on the water.
Did you watch the episode a couple weeks ago with Dion?
Oh, yeah.
Like him right there. That whole family sitting up there just waving at him. Oh, Robert Robleski. I have the perfect technique to doing that off the boat. I think it would be a public service.
I think you should call in all your anglers or guys you've had on the show, and everybody just talks about their thing. You could make it you could do a whole episode
on how to take number 2 off.
And then you could have the fans vote for whose idea is the best. That'd be pretty cool. Get some engagement,
Get some engagement. It's all about the engagement, right? All right. So Alatuna, now granted, it's been warm. Mm-hmm. It's been hot. Hell, we had 90s. It was 96 in Atlanta yesterday. Yeah. We're almost to October. All right, but that cooler weather is getting ready to start. So I'll give this question to you first, Jonathan. As the temperature drops in the fall, what do you see in the bass as far as their behavior that will make you either stay what you're doing shallow or maybe making some subtle changes? What are you looking for?
Well, when it comes to largemouth, because that's what I particularly like to target is largemouth. I'll kind of do it backwards as far as I do spring. Spring, I start in the back and work my way out. Fall, I start out and work my way in.
You're talking about out like it's in the mouth of the creek?
Out in the mouth of the creek.
Okay.
Figure out where these bait fish have positioned on their way back to these backs of these creeks, because as the lake starts to turn over and you got the turnover, the fresh water coming in the backs of these creek are the freshest water, got the most oxygen, and that's where that bait fish is going to stay.
Okay. All right.
And as the as the turnover starts to flatten out and kind of stabilize, then the shad will start moving back out again. But this is where you start getting into winter.
So you got to have water though coming. You actually got to actually have a creek, some form of water coming in.
If you're just going into a dead end pocket and it's turning over, there ain't no fresh water coming in. That's a dead pocket to me.
That makes sense. That makes sense. I don't think a lot of people talk about the amount of fresh water coming in.
If you've got a pretty good sized creek coming in, that's the creek I'm going to target as far as the turnover goes.
Okay, so how long does it take for the bait fish to actually get into the back? Say starting out, is it a month-long process? Is it instant? I mean,
I'd say it's like the spawn almost to where like the bass will spawn over like a 6-week period or 8-week period. So it's kind of the same thing. It's like
it just depends on where the turnover is at. If I go, let's say I'm on Lanier and I'm up the hooch or something like that, turnover is faster up there than it is on the south end.
Right.
So the bait fish are going to move faster into the backs of these creeks up on the north end, but on the south end, they might never have to. The turnover may only last a week down on the south end.
Does, and this is for me. Let me see what Richard. What's up, Richard? Lucy, appreciate you joining us. Jay Lee has a video about how to drop the boneless brown trout out the back of the boat.
That's a funny.
That sounds like something Jordan would do.
That's awesome.
But Jordan's a professional. I want to get these local guys to do that. I know Rob's a professional too, but good 3-0. What's up, Alex? So, does Lake Lanier and you fish a lot of the big water?
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about out in front of the dam.
Yep.
Does it really get a turnover?
100%. Yeah. I mean, even where it gets super deep, I mean, you'll see bubbles left and right, and you can just tell the way the water looks. You know?
Timothy, I'm sorry. It's just once I'd like to get on this podcast and we not be talking about poop.
It's the wrong guest, buddy. Sorry.
Dude wipes are key. So yeah, listen, Timothy, I understand it, but listen, it's a public service. We got to educate. Our goal is to help you guys catch more fish. We also want you to be safe on the boat too. We don't need nobody falling off the back of the boat. No. Just trying to do what nature is calling out there. What about all this rain we're expecting as far as it affects that? And Alex wants to know how the shallow bite is, farmer. So let's just say that you fish shallow. Shallow bite was over at 10:30 on Allatoona this past Sunday. Caught a bunch the week before, but now let's say we're going to get dumped with 5, 6, 7 inches of rain. And let's say you're going to go the Saturday or Sunday afterwards, after all this rain. Are those fish still going to be positioned where you thought they might be? Are they going to be back farther in the pockets because the water temp's going to drop a little bit with the rain?
I think they're going to move. I think they're going to move up because we're going to have rising water. No matter if we get that amount of rain, the lake's coming up.
That's right. That's true.
And I've always been one to say if it's rising water, fish are going to push up because they're going to come up looking for food. So I'm going to,
especially if you're on Carter's.
Yeah, especially if you're on Carter's.
Have you ever fished Carter's when it's flooded?
No, I've never fished there. I've been wanting to go.
They tell stories about Carter's being over the boat ramps and up in the picnic tables in the trees, and them guys flipping jigs against pine trees that a week before we're out of water.
Yeah, and it's awesome. It's 4 pounds
in the spring or like when
right in the wintertime because it happens every year. We get those big rains and everything. Well, Carter's floods every time. The last 2 years, it's gotten so bad that you put into the lake in the parking lot. You can't even get to the ramp. The ramp's gone.
That's awesome.
It is awesome.
Well, you go around and the water's just chocolate milk, and you take a black and blue jig and pitch it against the pine trees and the picnic tables and pick up big fish after big fish after big fish.
Ain't it crazy how they know.
I mean, it's like if we were sitting right here and all of a sudden somebody just built a new shop on top of this, we'd go fucking check it out. Sorry, excuse me.
No, it's okay. We own the show. We own the show. So we just got demonetized. Actually, you know what though? This is a true story. We've been demonetized, had limited ad, whatever they call it, in 2 out of the last 7 shows.
Oh boy.
One with the college anglers, which we did not cuss or say a word. It was like very, I don't know. And he got demonetized, not demonetized totally for some reason, but limited. And then one with Tim Hancock that, and of course that's Tim. Tim says some stuff. So I get that one, but seriously, it's always funny. You could say that all night long and we probably would be just fine. So Joshua, they'll be tight to cover depending on the water flow. And that's very true. And
Well,
Ryan
depends.
Peter, what's up, buddy? Appreciate you joining us tonight.
They I'll-tune them because they're dropping the lake already. It's like 4.5 foot already.
It's going to fill up.
It's down. Well, it's going to fill right back up. This amount of rain, it's going to fill right back up to full pool, if not just a little more.
Yeah.
Where they're not going to immediately drop it because they're afraid of flood and roam. They can't just let it loose.
But all right.
They can't just let it loose.
Right,
Or
for
they'll
sure.
flood roam.
Right.
So you're going to have high water for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is going to make this the fish move up tight to the laydowns and stuff that's not in the water anymore, or a lot of people's docks when they don't go down there and fix them quick enough and the ramps flip over. That's fish attractant.
That makes sense.
That's stuff I'm going to hit with power stuff, trying to cause a reaction.
Oh, I get it. What's up, Michael Temples? Ryan Hanks, what's up, buddy? And what's up, buddy?
There's the big fish man himself.
The big fish man himself. Boy, I wish I could say the word that I found out them Australians say. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my Lord, they say it. Hermetic gravity. Man, we are watching from Kentucky. Absolutely awesome, dude. I appreciate you joining us tonight. One of the coolest things about this show is when we start seeing people from out of town and joining us and all that, because everybody fishes everywhere. So really appreciate you guys. Y'all's deer season just kicked in, and I've seen some giants already shot in Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so he's talking shallow though. Water.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to kind of flip the script a little bit.
Yeah.
Water rises like hell. He's over there throwing at the trash cans
Mm-hmm.
in the parking lot. You like to be offshore, so does it affect an offshore fish near as much?
Yeah, so it depends on where the bait goes, right? So like a lot of the bait's going to be heading up in the backs of the creeks and things like that. But
you got to chase them.
Yeah, so the bass are going to go where the bait goes, but you also have a factor of there's bass that like to be where they want to be, and they're going to stick in their area no matter what happens, like hell or high water, to be honest, like it legit. And so I feel like another big thing is the current flow. Like somebody brought it up in the comments, like if they're going to be pushing water, like that flow schedule is going to be different. So it's going to, and a lot of people know in the summertime on Lanier, when they're not pulling any current or nothing, like it's a tough bite. But when you have that water moving and you can get that stuff flowing, I mean, it's going to stay more consistent out there deep than it is going to be up shallow. I mean, you got a lot of variables. So like a lot of fish don't like the change. They don't want to chase the change and go up and down the creek left and right. I mean, you're going to have fish that just live out there deep in that timber forever. So the biggest thing, I'll kind of look away from the creeks and try to find like the creek channel out in the middle, because it's definitely still that consistent flowing water, and find stuff close to that will remain relatively consistent. Like that's the goal for me, is like finding the consistency in all the very rapidly changing conditions.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. So hermetic, I almost said hermetic gravy. All right, I'm hungry, dude. It's been a long day. Gravity. So he's coming down to fish with Bill Payne.
That's cool,
dude. Good choice right there. Now I'm Bill Payne. If you're gonna fish, you're gonna fish slow. Bill Payne's gonna fish slow. Slow.
Bill Payne would hate me in his boat.
Because you're a power guy.
Because he'd never get me.
And he'd love me because I'd be dragging a jig like it's February, no matter what time of year
you
it
know
is.
What, though? He is. I will tell you this: you're going to have an absolute great time. I cannot tell you enough good things about Bill Payne. He's a great angler, but he's an even better guy. So listen. You're going to go slow. So I am a gravy player. I like it right there. So Ryan says, I'm jealous the storm is keeping me from fishing, and it's giving you guys OGable weather.
That's a new term.
Let's hold this up.
Can we coin that term?
Start say, look what I brought.
Look what he brought. So we're going to talk some baits here in a little bit. And of course, he did bring the OG, and you've already mentioned the OG. Mm-hmm. And so, Cast, we would like a commission on all the baits you're going to sell from. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so let's kind of jump into that. All right, I'm going to give this one to you. That's a Matt O term. So O'Connell, there you go. Yep. OGable. He's got the prettiest hair in all of fishing, does he not? Oh my gosh! I wonder what product he uses.
Mane and tail, man. Gotta be. It's gotta be.
Man, I'm 54 and the Van Halen t-shirt closed the deal permanently. That's right, baby, right there. So I'm 52. So we grew up about the same time. So you are a class act individual, and I hope you'll keep joining us right there. So appreciate that. If it didn't cost so much, my opening theme song would be Van Halen, but they want quite a penny if you want to license that stuff right there. So, okay, so let's talk offshore.
Okay,
let's talk fall. What baits are you using now, and what baits will you be using in 3 weeks, 4 weeks if the weather cools off?
So as soon as that weather starts cooling off is when you can really start playing with bait sizes, right? Like everybody thinks fall transition, they're like baits small. It's all the fingerlings or hatchlings or whatever the biologists call them these days. Are there all the ones from the spring are starting to get that 2-inch size. So a lot of guys are downsizing, throwing this crappy jigs basically to get these fish to bite.
They are, yes.
And a lot of times you have to do that. But the nice thing is as soon as it starts cooling down is you can either go really small or really big. You can fish those extremes a little bit more. So that's where I like being able to throw an OG, throw a glide bait around, like being able to like really start to hit one end of the spectrum. And another thing too, us herring lake guys get real distracted and kind of forget that the main forage sometimes is still bluegill. Like I had fish cough up bluegill in the live well this weekend. And so like, it's like, okay, well, they're also eating bluegill, they're eating herring. They got kind of a little bit of everything. So it kind of depends on which fish you want to target. But it depends. I mean, I was catching fish in 40 foot of water coughing up bluegill. So it's like, what are them bluegill doing out there?
40 foot of water with bluegill.
No, those brush piles out there are loaded with brim. Yeah. Once they quit spawning and they move back out, they're loaded.
Nobody talks about that. Nobody has ever talked about that on this show as far as bluegill being out in the brush piles.
That swim jig trick I told you about, that's what I target with it.
Brush pile bluegills.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Brim eaters.
On the brush.
On the brush.
So you brought up a good point there, Clint, because we hadn't talked about that.
No.
So you had it in its stomach.
Yep. I mean, it was coughing up little ones, and I had one cough up like a decent size one. So I mean, it's one of those things that they just kind of start doing like they probably got the hint of it, especially those offshore fish, to where that little bit of warming back up didn't affect them as much as those shallow fish probably, and so they were probably just starting to, and then. But I think here when it cools back down, we kind of get through this hurricane in a couple of weeks. I think they'll be munching on those, and it's where like you can do a lot of sneaky things with a jig offshore. You can play around with weights is a big thing. Like it's not as much about profile as it is about the weight and the reaction bite. Like it's not a dragging the jig bite. It's kind of a reaction bite, especially in those brush piles offshore.
It's hop it through them.
Hop it through them. Got it. You're getting that reaction bite though, right? Still,
I really like a 3/4 ounce swim jig, and I'll throw it out there and then brush piles and swim it through them.
Mm-hmm.
Bump it against every stick I can, just like it's trying to escape through that brush pile, and it will get destroyed.
Yeah.
No, okay. All right, let's jump on that. And I'll get to Josh, I'll get to Robert's comment in just a section. I want to jump on this real quick. Okay. When guys fish offshore on Lanier, and I guess Allatoona, any of these clear highland reservoirs, and I see the colors that they're throwing. They're targeting the threadfin eaters, the herring eaters, those. You're down there in a brush pile for brim eaters, changing your colors to more of a green pumpkin, darker profile, because nobody's doing that. They're at least talking about it.
Yeah, green pumpkin, and I'll usually throw some kind of double-tailed trailer on it. I really like the Z-Craws. A menace is really good on the back of a swim jig, and if they're really wanting a lot of action and you're having trouble keeping that bait from sinking too far down in it, put something like a rage crawl on the back that's got a lot of lift and a lot of action, and you can bring it through a little easier too.
And it helps with like a heavier jig. Like if you're trying to get that reaction bite, like putting on a trailer that gives you a little bit more drag in the water. Because if you're because the main thing is you want that thing to shoot down through the brush pile. And then as soon as it hits the bottom, you want to be able to rip it up. But a lot of times a fish doesn't want that bait to come off the bottom and immediately sink back down. Like a crawfish and a bluegill doesn't immediately go like pinball up and down like a 3/4 ounce jig would. So if you give it a little bit of something to give it that gliding action down, that looks a lot more natural in the water too. Trying to get that reaction.
Makes sense. So pull up Robert's comment. I want to make sure. And again, guys, hey, listen, if we miss your comment, put it back. And if we miss your question, put it back down again. We'll make sure we'll do our best to get to it. So he said, I had 4 bluegill eat Sebills on poles on an afternoon last week. So the bluegills were attacking the Sebills. That's pretty interesting.
Well, I know shallow I'm seeing so many bluegill pushed right against the bank. I mean, nose to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm anything you toss up there, and there's 100 of them scattered.
Bluegill,
a little brim, about like that.
I saw a ton of little ones on Alatoona on Saturday.
They are
or Sunday
everywhere, and I stopped targeting shad eaters and switched over to a black buzzbait, and it started getting eat. They were targeting
brim. I honestly, the changing of the color,
mm-hmm.
And going over brush specifically for bluegill eaters we just don't talk about that around here. Everybody's thinking blueback heron and a crappie's another one, so they get around.
A small crappie. If you want to target some big ones like some monsters, get a crappie pattern.
So if I'm going for 5 bites in a day, I just want 5 bites and I'm fishing brush piles.
Mm-hmm.
That's an option. Now, I'm going to ask you, and I'll get to the other questions here in a second, but how do you tell if a brush pile is bluegill eaters or heron eaters?
You go swimming.
I start saying, well, that you look to where they're positioned at.
Right.
Yeah.
If they're in the very top of the brush pile, most of your bluegill are down in it, swimming around and all that. If they're positioned on top of it, they're more likely looking up. They're looking at those heron or those threadfin coming over the top. That's the ones you get to come up out of the brush to come eat topwater. Or if they're down in it, just kind of hunker down looking at those, you're probably your brim eaters.
And one of the ways I figured that out too, which like to Farmer's point, is you would pull up to a brush pile this time of year and you'd see either see fish up high, like your bass would be up high, or they'd be down in the pile. And a lot of times I was like, oh, if they're down in the pile, they're pressured. Somebody already hit it, which sometimes is the case. But what if those are just bluegill eaters and they're not eating a herring bait because they're down in the pile? Like it was like you'd throw a topwater and none of them would come out of the pile because they're low down in the pile. But if you saw them up high in the pile, it was a good chance you're going to get bit on like an OG or a Sabile or a fluke or something like that.
That is very interesting.
A lot of times those ones that are hunkered down in the pile. Now I've noticed this on Lanier. You hit the pile with anything, they're done because it's not natural.
You got to bring it to the pile.
So if you bring it to the pile, or you sit there and drop it straight through it. But if you reel into it and hit it, they're gone.
Yeah. Or you can dance it over.
Okay. I got what you're saying. I got you saying.
So you throw to the edges of it with like a jig or something, like a regular old 3/8 ounce jig, and drag it on the outside. They'll come out.
Because they're looking for the weak bluegill in the group. Like they're hanging out in a tree where a bluegill is an easy distance for them to eat, but they see one over there that's out there in the no man's land, then they're like, all right, that one's mine.
I got you. Easy picking. So Joshua says, a full color Demiki underspin will surprise you. And why do they eat a jig stroking it?
It looks like a crawfish running. I love to fish that way, stroking a jig, especially from now all the way through February, because if you get it down there, and if you ever watch a crawfish run, the first pop is up and the second pop is out. So
of the
crawfish, because it pops up off the bottom and runs. Yeah, and it's only like 2 or 3 kicks. So if you sit there and you reel your rod down and pop once up and then pop back, it looks like a running crawfish, and then it settles back down to the bottom.
That's a good tip.
And it usually gets eat on the drop.
Mm-hmm.
So you control that with a semi-slack line. You do not just slack it or you'll miss the bite, and you don't hold it tight or you're just straight lining it to the bottom. You semi-slack and it kind of floats back down to the bottom.
Okay, so I'm gonna jump up a couple to Justin's comment right there on the bottom. Because you said earlier that you like to hit every stick with a swim jig. Now you're saying if you hit the pile, they won't bite. Now I think so. Clarify that what you were talking about.
In the summertime, when Lanier's pressured so hard. Now, if I was on Altoona, I wouldn't care. I just hit everything I hit with a swim jig. But if I'm sitting there and I throw out into this pile and I hit it, and every fish scatters out of it, I know that pile's been hit by every boat
But
every day.
But in a perfect situation, you still would like to hit every
in a
stick.
perfect situation, I want to cause a reaction strike. I want that swim jig to come through and hit and deflect.
Okay, I got what you're saying.
But if it's pressured fish and you can tell it's pressured fish, which forward-facing sonars made this really easy,
right?
As far as this goes, because you can throw out to the pile, and if they scatter, you know they're either ping shy or they've been fished for so much they know when something doesn't naturally come through a brush pile, it's coming up and over and all that. They
got what you're saying. I got what you're saying.
But in a perfect world, if I pull up to a brush pile,
right,
I'm making that thing just dance and deflect off everything.
Okay, all right, perfect. So I'm fishing Lanier tomorrow, shallow water. What should I be throwing? Listen. He's laughing because here's this. I know exactly what he would be throwing. He's got a buddy that has begged him not to tell everybody what he'd be throwing. But you know what? I outrank you, and you're over in Cedartown.
That's what I'd be throwing.
And that
is a G-Man or the Buckeye G-Buzz.
And pick it up so we can see what's different about the Buckeye G-Buzz.
This thing comes already
Oh, and there was another question about tuning. Can you pull that up, Josh, real quick? Well, I'm going to get him to do 2 going up.
That was
about the silent.
That was
Discover
Eric.
Bass Adventure right there.
Yeah, that was him being a smart aleck.
Oh, was he? Okay.
He commented on that TikTok video I made and said he couldn't hear it.
Hey, I could hear it, and I'm deaf. Too much Van Halen.
These Buckeyes come pre-tweaked for you. They've got the bend in them to where it'll make the buzzbait sit lower in the water and run more like this, which gives the fish more of an opportunity to get the whole bait in their mouth. And it comes with the rivet already messed with, so it's got a squeak to it, which you can work a little bit more and get a little bit better squeak.
So basically, he's throwing buzzbait.
Yep.
He's throwing a buzzbait. So that's what you need to be throwing tomorrow. There was a comment. Yes, it is a very great looking bona fide behind me from Festive Waters. But you guys can buy it here at Fish North Georgia. So if you guys want to come look at it, we definitely got it. So Eric Thurman, no, you didn't miss much. Just a lot of great information on how to catch more fish. You need to be here early there, bud. Mr. Gravity says, I wouldn't bet against these hammers on here. You two are hammers.
Oh, God.
You are hammers.
Rubber hammer.
Rubber hammer.
I got a
Rubber
hammer
mallets right here. Just great guys that know how to fish these lakes for sure. So, but it is cool. Getting guys that know what they're talking about right here. This show has already helped me with the spotted bass, Cumberland in particular.
Dude, I do want to say one thing. When I first moved down here in, I guess it was May or June of last year, like I was living in Western North Carolina and making special trips to Lanier like once a year, right? I was not familiar with it at all. And then I started watching this show and like really starting to understand like how these herring, because we have herring fish in the mountains in North Carolina. I mean, you got Chateau, and then we'd sneak over to Burton, and then plenty of like good herring lakes, but it doesn't fish like Lanier and Hartwell do, or Allatoona.
Right.
And so being able to have this show, I thought was really cool because you actually interacted with the audience, and the audience was local, which was also cool because it was like, this is real-time information on, like, it wasn't like, let me watch a fall transition video from 2020. It was like, these boys just went out and did this week. And with herring fishing, like, it changes so much. And you guys having a show almost every week, like, that was pretty awesome to be able to learn as a guy coming from an outsider. Like, I wanted to learn, and like, you can never learn enough in fishing. That's why we're all so addicted to it. And I thought it was pretty cool how you guys just brought that information to the table. And I was like, I don't know how they have just this many followers. I was like, this is such valuable information. And I was like, I almost don't want to tell people about it because the information is so valuable, you know. It was pretty cool. But
that's
like,
sweet of you.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty cool.
This show has made me a better offshore guy.
100%. Yeah.
It's made me a better host.
Yeah.
That's about it. I ain't
better at throwing a wacky rig.
I ain't throw a wacky rig now. But listen, I can do that. Appreciate it though. This show has always been about the guests and the comments, the guys in the comments section.
And it hasn't changed since the beginning. Like, I feel like you guys have always brought value, and you haven't let it get away from you to where you're just trying to pump drama or negativity like a lot of people do for clicks. Like, you guys are constantly bringing value every single week.
So you don't want us to become an ambulance chaser like some of these guys?
No,
They get the views, man. No, they
yeah.
get the views.
Jake Boomer calls him a shock jockey. That's what he calls.
Shock jockey.
That's what he calls all the people.
Well, you know,
clicks.
we could do that, but it's not genuine.
No, it's not who you are. It's not on brand. You know, you're here to bring education and bring the community together. Like I feel like I got more of a community once I started hanging out with you guys and just talking to the Fish North Georgia community. I got more community than I ever got in the past 6 moves that I've done in the past few years.
That's awesome. So, and we still love you foreigners from other states. And all you Yankees, anything above Dahlonega, Georgia, you're a Yankee. So listen, but appreciate that. And again, that's, you know, we have fun doing this podcast. I am not an expert.
And it should be fun.
It is fun.
That's all
it is. I've always wanted it to be like if we were at deer camp, having a cold beer around the campfire, BSing, but talking, you know, good stuff.
Because it's real.
It will never change.
Yeah.
We ain't going to change that. I don't know any other way to be. So appreciate all the comments right there. You know, every guest I've seen on here are really good teachers. That's all the guests, 100% right there. So I am the wacky rig king, but I had some good teachers. I'm not the king. I'm the king of the 2-pound spotted bass. That's what I'm the king of. So let's see, Clint, let's see. I use the info here for Lake in Alabama. You know, that's interesting too. I know a lot of guys over on Smith Lake and other lakes like that in Alabama, like, and even Slick Johnson and them was telling me they watch this because we talk herring and stuff. And, you know, so, hey, we thank you. Y'all going to make me all blush and get teary up, you know, feeling good. But the hell with all that. Let's talk more about how to catch some of these fish. What's the one mistake you see guys make in the fall when it comes to trying to put more bass on the boat?
You don't cover water.
You don't cover water.
You got to cover water in the fall.
And why?
It's water. The turnover. You're chasing bait fish. You're chasing. You're sitting in an area too long. These fish have been hit all summer. There's so many factors, but if you cover water in the fall and you lock into an area, now say Sunday when me and Dane fished, we had locked into an area where we knew fish were at. We didn't have to move. We sit there all day and just one right after the other.
Right.
But if you're looking for fish, go down a stretcher bank. If you don't get bit, leave the area. Go half a mile down to try something else.
Yeah. And that's a shallow way of doing it. What about deep water?
So I think you should cover water and bounce around if you have a bunch of stuff marked and be able to go. But I end up soaking an area too much, and all my buddies, especially Ian out there, makes fun of me for it because I do have a big problem. And Lanier's trying to teach me to be able to move all over the place and crank that big motor. I don't know if it's a factor of just me worried about burning gas and saving money or whatever. But the thing is like you can land. There's fish everywhere you drop your trolling motor on Lake Lanier. I feel like every time I drop my trolling motor, look around, there's fish. But it's finding those fish that are active and actually willing to eat. And it could be a matter of 5 minutes between you should have showed up at that spot and then they came up busting for 5 minutes and you weren't there. Then you missed that opportunity. So like you're just increasing your odds, your probability of coming across those fish that really are willing to bite. Yeah.
And so you ain't got to pull it up, but Josh had a good comment saying, yeah, this is all great information, but fishing and time on the water is absolute key. And so like if you don't take what you hear and put it into practice, it ain't going to do you no good. So
you can't catch them on the couch.
Can't catch them on the couch. Now, this is interesting. We got someone on the show guilty of soaking a spot. I have to in the electric only world.
Yeah.
We don't get to zoom around like you guys do. So we have to fish a spot out. There have been many times I wish I could run and gun. But this is interesting. Something I've learned this year. This is Tony's comment up there. Right there, Josh. You're right there on it. Something I've learned this year and moving into the fall. And so this is a good fall technique right here. Learn to use your electronics if you have them. And he's talking about side scan and down scan. You can quickly find bait fish. So he's using his electronics to find not just fish, but bait fish, which to me seems like with the conversation we've had so far, bait fish is the key. 100%. Which hell, it probably is all year, but going in the fall, you mentioned the different sizes. You know, you mentioned them moving back into the creek. So, you know, how much you have the forward facing. I loved how you called it forward facing technology earlier, not sonar.
Exactly.
You changed that up a little bit, but how much does it come into play with you and how much do you use side scan and down scan?
So
I
feel like when you I've been in the boat with a lot of pros, being able to hold a camera in the industry for the past few years, and like the biggest thing I've learned is the fact that they spend so much of their practice on the big motor, like they're not on the trolling motor, and I'm the complete opposite, and I'm really trying to learn how to find them with the big motor. And I think the biggest thing is they find the best areas on the lake after spending 3 days of practice graphing. They're bouncing around, they're looking for bait, they're looking for the size of the fish, and yeah, they'll pick up and fish and try to test the quality, but they're so efficient at what they do. Like that's for like a weekend guy that only gets to go out like once every couple weekends. You can't be that efficient. But when you're on the water for 3 straight days, like they can be so efficient at breaking down that water that they can find fish and what they're doing and where they're going and where they've been, and ultimately be able to land on the fish. So I think the thing is they find them in practice and then they go out and catch them. But one thing that's been cool, and I've never been like a big fan of MLF, but with this team series, they're showing up, no practice, none of that, and they're fishing together. Like they're learning on the fly. You don't see them graphing around for 8 hours during the team series tournament. Like they're figuring it out.
They're having to figure it out
as they go. But when you're allowed practice, like you can break down the water that much better. Like guys that work from home and are able to go out on linear 3 or 4 times a week, like they're able to break down that water and use their big motor and do things like that. But when you're stuck on the weekend, like I don't want to sit there and idle for 4 hours to find them, but sometimes that's the best way to go too. So
yeah, that makes sense. So Ken says, Danny throws a wacky worm like a man that just got out of prison. Yes, I do.
Pick up that fairy wand.
I can throw it on a bait caster. Huh? I can throw it. I like it better.
I remember the last time you tried to have it on a bait caster.
Yeah, what happened?
You bird nested.
I did bird nest. I did bird. I have a bad problem of not adjusting my bait caster when I change.
But in your defense, we were skipping docks, and
I can't skip. Can you skip docks?
Yeah.
Hell with you. I can't. Everybody can do it, but there's no docks on electric only reservoirs. I'm just terrible.
The biggest thing that taught me how to skip docks was skipping like a 7 or 8 inch swim bait, like a soft body swim bait, and then going from there to skipping flukes and wacky rigs and all that stuff. But like it was like throwing a big bait was how I really learned how to skip, especially because like I was stuck fishing out of a kayak when I was in college for 4 years, and so learning how to skip in the kayak, I mean, that was easy. But then as soon as I moved to the big boat, it's a whole nother angle. It's a whole different ball game. So
I look at it like this: if you can skip a stone, you can skip a bait. It's the same angle.
If you can skip a stone, you can skip a bait.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And it's about like you got to be focused on your target. It's like any other sports and hand-eye coordination. You can't be just looking at the next thing you're going to hit, because if you do, the next thing you're going to hit is the pontoon.
Now who does that, Farmer?
You do.
Damn right I do. Right there.
He rings a dinner bell.
Rings a dinner bell. All right. So real quick on this question, got a tournament on Clark's Hill in 2 weeks and he can't practice for it. How would you approach the lake on day one? I know what you're going to do.
I'd start shallow immediately, especially this time of year.
It's still going to be fairly warm on that lake.
I'd still start shallow.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, would you start shallow like in the dead of winter? At what point do you stop starting shallow?
Probably winter times when I really just stay away from shallow water.
So you're going to fish it
and
heavy.
I'm the opposite.
Oh, okay.
Well, hang on. Hang on.
Mm-hmm. Here we go. Let's talk.
December, January, I'm targeting ditches because that's where the majority of the fish are at.
Okay.
Well, in my opinion, that's where the majority of your fish are at.
Right.
When February comes around, I start getting that dirty water in the backs. I'm going shallow.
So you got like a little 2-month period where you stay a little deeper than normal. All right. So you had a dissenting opinion. What is it?
I start shallow in the offshore areas and like targeting rock and bluegill eaters.
That makes sense. I mean,
wintertime.
It is what's the telltale is if fish they'll feed shallow, but if they've got deep water close by, they'll move up and down.
It's all about that deep water access for sure. And like those finding those shallow spots that get shallow real quick and then they get deep real quick, like finding those drop offs and being able to target. Cause like you could have a spotted bass in 40 foot of water cruising the timber. And he's like, I'm going to go eat bluegill for an hour. And then I'm going to go back out to the timber and chill. And if herring come by, they come by. And that's why you sit there and poke at them and they're not eating because they're got a belly full of bluegill.
Makes sense. So for Heath, to answer Heath's question specifically, you would start shallow with a buzz
I would
bait.
start shallow
with a buzz bait.
Depending on water clarity.
Okay, what if it's dirty?
If it's dirty, I'm still depending on dirty. If it's blown out, I'm throwing something like a chatterbait, a square bill, something that's putting a lot of thump down into the water where they're at. If I have a slight stain, I'm gonna have a buzz bait. If it's clear, I'm gonna have a buzz bait.
Any particular color?
White or black.
When would you use black over white?
If they're eating brim. If I see a lot of brim on the bank,
you're going with the black.
I'm going with black.
Okay, that makes sense right there. So
black is more of a silhouette anyway. Or you're casting a silhouette is all you're doing with black, pretty much.
Yeah, okay, no, makes sense right there. So farmer, take the big boat out of it. How are you attacking the water in your yak this fall?
I like it.
I'm still learning kayak world because you've got to dissect an area. You can't just go, well, this sucks and move.
Right, yeah, or not as fast anyway.
Yeah. I'd have a lineup that I'd go through. I'd go down a stretch of bank with like a buzz bait or a whopper plop or something that I can cast a long ways and cover 50 yards, something in one.
You almost said 100 yards.
I almost did.
I was getting ready to call you on it.
No, now
maybe if you had some cast braid, you can make that.
You can with cast braid. No doubt about that.
Every one of my spinning rods has cast braid on it because I can sail them.
I'm tired of blowing smoke up Ryan Hanks's ass, but that is the best braid. And I'll put it to you this way. Listen,
awesome.
I had a sales rep for another company that does braid in my shop the other day. And they're coming out with a new braid for iCast next year. And he was giving me the ins and outs of it. And it sounds like a really good product. And I won't say the company, but their other product is good. I use it. But I said, listen, have you thrown the cast braid yet? And I asked this guy that, and he said, no, I've heard a little bit about it. I said, well, what you need to do is you need to go buy your roll of cast braid, take it back to your shop, and then compare your braid that you're coming out with to the cast. Because if it doesn't cast near as even in the ballpark of that stuff, y'all wasting your time.
I can send
and I told him that. He looked at me like, and I was like, that shit's that good.
Yeah.
You can get an extra 50 feet each cast.
With a wacky worm, you can.
Yeah, or weightless fluke. Yeah. Like that was the biggest thing for me was being able to send a presentation like a fluke 100, 150 feet away. Is
and not even really put a lot of effort into it.
No, and especially you get the wind at your back there, you're sailing that thing to the bottom of the spool sometimes.
He looked at me like I was crazy. I'm like,
those little jackal risers. You could send those.
Oh yeah,
yeah, you can. But he didn't.
You get a tailwind with them.
Yeah, it's like what I used to do before cast braid was I had a 1 ounce cast master on a spinning rod, and that's about what it's like with a weightless fluke with the cast braid.
You know what's funny though? Then he started asking me all these technical questions. Well, what denier? And I'm like, hell, dude, I don't know. I just know it throws good.
But you can let him do his own R&D on that, so he doesn't try to come out with something.
They said they had this stuff and it was going to be really good. I'm like, better be better than the cast.
But back to that, the kayak thing, I'd probably have a lineup of baits. I'd have the little ball head straight tail minnow. I'd have a flat-sided crankbait. I'd have a spoon or some kind of glide bait to see if they were on big stuff, and a spinner bait or square bill, something like that. That's
a good question from Eric. You would give me the run for the king of the 2-pounders. Hey, listen, we're brothers at the one right underneath him, Adam W. Fishing. It's a very good question. While skipping docks, if you hit something, quote unquote, ringing the dinner bell, do you continue to fish the dock or do you move on?
Yeah, I continue to fish the dock.
You've done it with me.
Those. I mean, when we were on Notley, when I took you up to Notley, he'd hit a pontoon, the loudest thing you can hit. I mean, send sound out in the water for miles. But we'd skip right back under the next float in that same dock and catch one. It's depending on the fish. If the fish are pressured, they're used to getting hit. Yeah, something hits it, they're gone. They're not going to eat.
Yeah.
But to me, it's like I'm gonna have to troll a motor past the next slip anyway. Might as well slide a bait up under there and hope, you know.
For sure. You're there. You might as well.
It may get one's attention because how many times have you been on a marina dock, walking down a marina dock, and watched bluegill nosed up to those black floats, and if they get spooked, they hit it and it makes a little knock.
Mm-hmm.
These bass come and they look at it, see what's going on.
Yeah, sometimes it might even attract them a little bit.
Sometimes.
Absolutely.
Just depends.
Would you do me a favor, big dog?
Yes, sir.
Would you hand me that Coke over there, that refrigerator? If you don't mind. Paul Coonan, I'd like for Farmer to break down proper hook set for him. Well, I can tell you one thing. It's to the right.
To the right.
To the right.
And if you're left-handed, it's to the left.
I didn't even think about that camera being in the way. These are the things we deal with on a live podcast right there. Sending the man on a Coke run right there.
Well, all I know is
you're all right.
One of my biggest pet peeves as far as hook sets go, I cannot stand watching somebody go, there he is, and then reel back down to him again. Yep, he's still there. And then do it a third time right before they swing, and you watch their line go, ping, that fish has dropped it. I can't stand that.
You gotta hit them as soon
as you feel it and you pick it up and it feels weird, swing.
Yeah, I'm the king of slackliner. I had a bet with Ian because he always makes fun of me for slackline hook sets on a jig. I'm notorious for it, and so he ended up buying. I won the bet, and so he had to buy me the slackliner hat from Gerald Swindle. And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, it fits the bill. Yeah, I'll slackline them on just about anything. As soon as I feel it, dude, I'm just." It's coming. Ripping and hoping.
I started to say my hook set is I drop my back foot, my right foot, I drop it backwards and I turn.
You do turn. I know your hook set.
So but
it's effective. It works.
I think back on Gunnersville a couple years ago when it was just a 65-pound braid and we were flipping or punching, I brought I didn't pair lips. I brought a top lip back from setting the hook.
A little too hard.
A little too hard.
A little too hard. It happens. Weird question from my cast guy. This is going to be you.
Yep.
What type of presentation for an Echo straight tail bait on an underspin? Summer to this fall before we're crawling them.
So the biggest thing is I like the 3.5 on the back of an underspin right now, especially like you got that blade. You're already targeting those smaller bait fish by having the blade there. And so I like the 3.5 Echo. The Ozark's a great color. It just like looks about like any other bait fish that you can find. It's got a little bit of everything. You can throw it when it's cloudy. You can throw it when it's bright sun, slick, calm. But I'd be burning it still like you would in the summertime, but then eventually just start slowing it down. And there's one big trick, especially for you guys looking at forward-facing technology.
I love that, man. That is like high society.
One of the best at it, Josh Jones, was talking about how water clarity is a big thing. He's like, instead of trying to put it on the fish's nose and reel it past it or burn it past it or something like that, he was like, you got to consider your water clarity. Like, especially when we're dealing with hurricanes coming in, like you can put it closer to their nose so they see it and they feel it. But if you're slick, calm, bluebird day and you've got 10 foot of visibility, you want to put your bait at 10 foot above that fish's head and not let it get down closer, because he's like, you want them to see it, but not get a good look at it. And like, if you're putting it on top of their head and trying to slow roll that underspin and they can see it and they see it come down and they know what it is when it's still 8 foot above their noggin, like they're less likely to bite as if they see something and they're like, let me go check that thing out. And then they can't hit the brakes and they open their mouth and
it's done.
You got them. Yeah.
That makes sense. Mr. Gravy again right there. I'd like to know what % of time these dudes have a worm on for spots. I always have a shaky head on.
Every day.
I flip between a jig or a worm.
Right.
It's just depending on what I'm seeing.
And I have more confidence in a worm. So
if I can't get them to bite a jig, I'll switch over to a worm.
Yeah.
But it's this time of year, I'm not throwing like a finesse trick worm. I'm throwing a mag shaky head worm.
Something a little bit bigger.
I throw the same shaky head worm. Doesn't matter what time of year, when. I'll just throw the same size, same profile. I keep it simple, and I have it tied on year round. I'll play with the weight sometimes. I'll go either light or I'll go up to a 1/4 ounce. It's about the heaviest I'll go on a shaky head. You just got to be patient. But it's all all about the fall on a shaky head too. I mean, that was one of the things I learned on this show was Kevin Underwood talking about
I was getting ready to say Underwood what he said.
Yeah.
Sometimes he will put that lighter head on because he wants that slower fall.
And he wants it to spiral. That was the biggest thing because with the spring lock, you're not getting the spiral like you are with that. And it's also another thing too, is like you got to, especially like this time of year in the transition, like they're in February, March when they want it to spiral down with the super lightweight February, March, April. Like they want it to spiral down, but like this time of year, it's kind of more of like a pendulum, like tight lining almost. And I felt like I've gotten more bites doing that, especially in brush piles. A lot of guys are casting it straight dead into the brush pile and it's going to straight down presentation. Whereas like I like to cast past the brush pile and let it kind of pendulum into it. It kind of gives it more of a natural presentation, especially when everything's moving around so fast this time of year.
So to answer your question, Jonathan goes back and forth between a jig and a worm. I always have a shaky head tied on when I do get the fish, and you always have a shaky head tied on. So let's see. What line are you using for the cast OGs on top water?
I'm using straight fluorocarbon because I use it to make that nose dive just a little bit easier.
So you don't throw it on braid?
No. I throw it on 20-pound fluorocarbon.
Okay.
So I like both, and I always have both rigged up. So I'll have one on 50-pound cast braid to a 20-pound mono leader. So like when I want it to be up higher, especially like when I'm moving it faster, burning it as fast as I can, and I want it to dance all over the top, especially when those fish are moving faster. But like, let's say it's starting to get nasty outside, hurricane season, all that stuff. I want 20-pound fluoro so that thing bites. Like I want it to bite and dig.
I want that V cut.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or that Z cut that it's known for.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bubble trail.
Sometimes, guys, these guys are over here, they're answering, and I'm always looking up to the next questions and comments. And Tony, listen, I honestly about busted out laughing. I got a fishing partner that lets them eat it to their butthole, and we end up hoping it doesn't die. No, but you know what? Back in the day, this is no lie. When we were Texas rigging back in the 80s, I know I'm older than you guys. We were taught throw it out, lift it up. If you feel that do, you kind of reel down and you make sure that he has it. And when I first started throwing jigs, I'd feel that first, and then I would reel down, and then I feel that second, and I'd set the hook.
He's gone.
Well, hell, he's spitting it out. It was a tough transition for me to learn. I missed so many fish because that's how we were taught back in the days. My dad, even with a shiner, float go under, count to 5. He'd make me count to 5. And of course, he would say they're scaling it, which now I know, God rest his soul, he didn't know what the hell he's talking about. But it was just a little different way we did it back then.
Worm, wait till you feel it solid. When it's solid, hit him because they've got it by the hook.
Right.
It's solid.
Yeah.
Jig, they pick up a jig. Yeah, they might have the tails. You feel that, but he's sucked it in.
They do. And it's the way they hit the jig.
They suck a jig in.
Different, just like you eat a chicken leg different than you do a cheeseburger. Yeah. You know.
So, I don't know that I do. I just go all in.
Yeah, that's true.
But they suck a crawfish in.
Right.
That's right. They suck a crawfish in to get it back in their crusher so they can kill it quick because crawfish have them pinchers and they're mean.
Like think about, I wonder if bass have died from a crawfish like pinching their gills or like cutting their gills.
They're trying to get them.
Again, it's something we have not thought about on this show. So way to bring up a good point. That sounds like we need to do some research on that.
I sure say, and I've heard it from pros. I've heard it from YouTube videos. They'll hit a crawfish without pinchers faster than they'll hit anything else.
You think okay.
That's why
I'm not saying you're wrong, but do you
that's
think
why the Ned
rig on the back of a jig works so well.
I know a lot of guys do that. They'll put the old turd on the back.
Tim McGuire knows about that.
Timothy right there. So Guy Logan, do you sell cast braid? Currently, no. However, Mr. Hanks was kind enough to send me their order form. I got it in an email, and they're getting a restocking in October. A restocking in October, and we will have it here at the shop.
Best time of year to get it too.
When it's in stock.
Well, yeah.
When it's in stock, it's the best time.
That's one of the hardest things. I mean, you got a small business and you're trying to grow it and all that stuff, keeping things in stock. I mean, you can turn people off if you don't have it, but there's also something when you know you have a good product and people are going to wait for it.
Yeah, for sure. So but to answer your question is soon right there. So, all right, Discover Bass Adventure. I really like that name. Discover Bass Adventure. What type and color jigs does Farmer throw? Now I'm gonna go ahead and tell you because I tie his jig. I can tell you.
Jig. I throw my jig.
He throws his jig, which is the Farmer Special, which you can get at Fish North Georgia. I will tie it up for you. It is a green pumpkin green with a little hint of
whiskey. It's
kind of whiskey. Yeah, whiskey.
Got a little orange to it.
One thing about Farmer with his jigs is he keeps it very basic. And you keep it very basic because, number one, it works for you. You got confidence. And you always tell me that you can change the color of the presentation with the trailer.
You can change your jig or if you just get a straight green pumpkin jig, dark green pumpkin, whatever, it doesn't matter. If it's green pumpkin, you can take a trailer and I can add hints of orange to it with the trailer. I can add hints of blue to it with the trailer. I'm going to change my jig with the trailer. I'm not going to go this big route and have 2 strands of chartreuse.
Thank God.
Yeah.
3 strands of orange. I'm going to change it with the trailer.
Yeah. Or a spike it pin. I like using a spike it
pin. Yeah, for sure. JJ's Magic, dip it a little.
I'll actually dip the heads sometimes instead of the tails.
That's why I like
when
the
that
pins.
Skirt flares out.
Yep.
Now there's like an egg sack sitting down
and
there.
I'll do it
like
to
an
my
egg sack.
shaky heads too. That's what I like. There's like a couple different colors that I like, and I'll dice up the head a little bit.
Yeah, I've always, and it's something Ryan used to say that made sense, and I've seen it in action, is that if you got a dip tail on your shaky head and you're getting a lot of short strikes, turn around and dip the head or the little section of the worm right by the head, because that might be what they're keying in on like that. So let's see. Race Burden. I like that name too right there. I know you have talked about a lot about this. But how big a factor does watercolor versus visibility contribute to bait color? Watercolor versus or visibility. I said versus visibility. It's the reason I started drinking this Coke right now. Do you understand what the question is?
Yeah, he's asking.
I've done murdered the question. So go ahead.
Dirty water, white or black.
Yep.
If it's blown out dirty, white or black. Now you throw your chartreuse in there, but I have researched it. I've seen so many videos on it. A fish, they don't have the color scheme that we've got. They're missing that the blue color or whatever it is, so everything looks dulled down. Reds show up very vibrant. Whites show up. Chartreuse doesn't even show up as chartreuse. It shows up as white.
It does. Very true.
Your black and blues, your blues don't show up, so it's just a black jig.
Even green pumpkin looks different.
Green pumpkin looks like pumpkin.
There's a great video, and Tim McGuire, if you're watching still, or if you're,
I think I reposted it on my TikTok.
If you got it on your TikTok, so you can check out his TikTok, or Tim McGuire knows that there is a video on YouTube a guy did where basically he took a filter and it kind of shows, it gives us the best idea of the way a bass would look.
Yes.
And he puts that filter over that kind of takes that blue cone that we got away. And it's pretty daggum neat.
Yeah.
Even the grass and everything underwater looks different to a bass.
Oh, yeah. But as far as like the visibility thing, dirty water, you're going your real vibrant colors, black or white. And your cleaner water, your more natural
shad
tones.
And stuff
your
like
more
that.
natural tones, your silvers and your green pumpkins. That's what I look at.
And I feel like when you get it dumbed down a little bit too, there's more factors than just color. There's texture is a big thing. Like thinking about a jerkbait, when you have a little bit of different texture, it's going to reflect light different in the water column. Like you're thinking about a deep jerkbait versus a shallow jerkbait. They're going to reflect light just a little bit different, considering if it's a matte shad color and it's absorbing the light, or if it's like some type of chrome color and it's bouncing that light back. So like think about something that's seeing in very flat colors, they're going to be seeing textures more. They're going to be seeing, like if I take a photo that I'm editing and I drop that saturation, and I imagine that's how the fish is seeing, like the way the water looks is going to be different versus the way the side of a bait looks in the water. So like being able to break down the difference in how that bait absorbs light or reflects light can also be another attractive factor when you're thinking about a bass. And like in that secondary action on a jerkbait, where if you have something that's a lot more shiny, or I was talking about this with Ian today, the Shimano World Minnow that's got the flash boost inside it, and you pause that jerkbait, but it's still reflecting light, instead of any other jerkbait where it's only reflecting light when it's moving, and then it's static and it's not reflecting light, but it has that that flash boost technology in it that gives it that secondary action that might trigger a couple more bites.
Yeah, it's a good point. Race, listen, I'm sorry that I absolutely murdered your question. Okay, it just didn't come out of my mouth right. Carson Fowler, outside of and I assume he's saying worm, outside of a worm, do you guys throw anything else on a shaky head?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, they said. All right, sure. We're gonna tell the boy what we throw.
I throw a crawl pattern on it. I'll throw
like a beaver style.
No,
or you talk like a true, like a
more like your critter crawl, like a Berkeley critter crawl.
Okay.
I'll throw what's the bigger Ned one that they come out. I think Strike King's the one that come out with it. Yeah, the Ocho or whatever. I'll throw it on the back of it. I'll throw a brush, or I'll get a big shaky head, and I'm wanting it more weedless because of the shaky head. I'll put a brush hog on the back of it. Okay. Get that brush hog standing up, looking like it's in defense mode.
What about you?
I like the 6 cents hog wallets. Like they're kind of brush hoggy looking bait, but it's got so many appendages that I think it looks better instead of like being on a big Texas rig and it laying down. I think it looks better with a shaky head being able to pop it up. And then also when you're targeting those offshore bluegill eaters is like a fluke on a shaky head, but get you a green pumpkin purple, something like that imitates the same reflection of a bluegill in the water. Like it puts off that same thing.
Bellows gills. I love those on the shaky head as well.
Yep.
As far as you brought it,
and it's got that the thing like in the fall is different on a shaky head versus a Texas rig, and so being able to play with that difference, because a lot of the times, I mean, you're trying to simplify bass fishing as much as you can, and we overcomplicate it so much.
Yeah, we do.
But sometimes they could be eating a crankbait, getting burned just as hard as they would a Sabile up shallow or something like that. It's just the action that they're after. Like you could be throwing any color, and sometimes it's just about the action. You learn that through glide bait fishing a lot.
Well, a lot of things that a lot of us don't realize, and it took me a little. Not everybody's catching fish the same way. Me and him can be out on the lake the same day. He's catching them out there doing what he's doing, but I'm doing something polar opposite. But I'm catching fish too.
Yeah,
it's just who's catching the better quality of fish.
You beat me on Sunday.
Well, it just happened to be that way. Yeah. But you lost a full.
I was getting ready to say, I saw what you lost there, bro, in the video.
So it's who's doing what.
But what's interesting is you say that, and we have those conversations, but never about bluegill. You're targeting bluegill shallow. I could possibly target bluegill 35 foot of water in a brush pile. You're targeting the same
bluegill can go
the same bait.
Bluegill can go the same places as bass do.
I agree with you, but nobody talks about that, or it hasn't been.
I'm going to
take out of this conversation.
Like you don't want to eat chicken and rice every single day the rest of your life. You might want it for breakfast, but you're not going to have it for dinner again. So what if when it gets that dusk time, which is like famous on Lanier for going up and cranking up shallow in that last hour of daylight, like, yeah, they were probably eating herring all day, and they pulled up and ate some bluegill for dinner. Like, it definitely changes throughout the day, and trying to figure out how to pattern that. That's what's so tough. Like, you could be the bass are about to eat bluegill here in about an hour, and then you just go back to fishing herring. And so, like, that's the hard part about these herring lakes and why you have to run and gun so much.
But it's pretty cool because all we talk about is herring.
Yeah.
We talk about bluegill shallow, and that's why I'm enjoying the conversation.
That's why
about
the only bait that I have named after me is the Bartlett bluegill, and it's a cast down under.
I didn't know that was named after you.
Yeah,
that's
time,
dude.
That's the color, son.
Big time. Yeah. Big time. So I'm gonna real quick. You can put. Yeah, I'm gonna hit that in real quick. Just I'm just gonna start calling you HG. So right there. Florida, same way, always a 10-inch worm or bigger in certain situations. Great info on the spots. Spots and muskie are my newest deals, always getting smallies too. I'm telling you about I saw the word muskie in your comment. Caught two. The hammer hit of a muskie is just stupid.
Oh, yeah.
How hard they hit a bait. It's absolutely stupid. So I just saw muskie, and I just want to be able to say, hey, I caught two muskie. Look, I even got the bracelet right there. So Derrico, got to figure out if they're taking the pincers off or got the whole thing.
I'm guessing he's talking about when you bring a fish up and he just spits the crawls up. He doesn't spit the crawfish up. He just spits the little pinchers up. I don't know how many times I've seen that, but I don't know if after they've pulled them in and crushed them, it's the claws are falling off.
It's got to be, because you got to think of that little tiny shoulder joint they got on there. And when you're eating crawfish, like you can pull that claw off real easy versus
because I've seen largemouth do it, or the largemouth picking them up by the crawls and don't suck them in.
And they'll sling them around like a dog.
And they shake them off, or as a defense mechanism, crawfish can detach their arms and get away.
Yeah.
Damn.
And think about how many times you've like gotten bit on a jig and you comes back and you only got one claw and you're not changing the trailer. You sling back in there and they eat it. It's like, they're like, okay, well, that's where he went. And I got a hold of him.
I love you guys talking about this stuff. Papa Paul is in the house tonight, though. So, Paul, miss you. Appreciate you, big dog. Farm telling me my jig caught fish was a big thing for me. You know what he's talking about? I don't know either, Paul. Clarify that on that comment. But regardless, I'm glad you're here. Let's see. David Weaver. Interesting, because he's talking about a McStick. We have been throwing a McStick first thing in the morning and beating the points. And a lot of those fish have crawfish spitting up along with a bunch of shad.
Bass are optimistic feeders.
Optimistic, like they're happy?
Opportunistic.
Opportunistic. That's that.
Anytime I see some food, I'm optimistic.
I'm pretty
too.
optimistic that those bass are going to feed on whatever I'm throwing.
But
Exactly
opportunistic feeders.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah. If it's there, it's there.
Well, all bass is how many calories can I take in today so I can make it to tomorrow? Group of shad comes through, I'm going to hammer on them. There's a crawfish, I'm going to eat it.
Yeah, oh, for sure. It's just like after eating a big meal. I sit down and watch a ball
there's a
game,
bluegill.
It's like being at a party and they got that big table full of all the crackers and the little hams and cheeses and all that stuff. You're going to keep sneaking back over that table and be like, I'm going to have me a little, try some of that.
Oh, I get it. Yeah, 100%. So
bass is he's going to eat what he wants to eat. It's just how do you trick that fish into thinking that's something I want to eat?
Cumberland is Jen clear. All right, so Tony, hey, pull up Tony's right there. This is what I was talking about. After the show, don't do it now. I don't want to see you guys take off now. But after the show, go to this channel, Fishing with Steve Rogers on TikTok. That's I believe that's the video we watched right there. And it is honestly really cool. We watched it on YouTube with Tim. And maybe he has the full video on TikTok as well. I don't know. But it's really cool when he puts that filter on, how it changes the colors. So what's up, Tom and Tracy Coker? Appreciate you guys joining us tonight. Let's see. Carson Fowler. Very good question. And I've got my opinions on this, but I'd love to hear your guys. What would the situation be for you to decide on either throwing a Texas rig or a shaky head?
Short cast versus long cast.
All right, go ahead and let's.
If I'm going to bomb a shaky head on a point because I want to be far away from that fish and I want him to eat it on the fall, I want to be slinging a long cast, and I'd rather him be casting a shaky head than I would a Texas rig, because it's all about the fall presentation.
Yeah,
if I'm like I'll do it, but I'm not pitching a shaky head at a brush or at a laydown. I would rather flip a Texas rig in there because the fall is straight down. It's a reaction bite. No. And you got to think that log is set up to a certain amount. You got all this water right here, all this space for stuff to happen. Whereas like a shaky head to glide its way through that space or something to come straight down through it. I feel like it's all about the fall.
It's casting versus pitching pretty much. It's where you're going to fish it. If I'm fishing points, humps, stuff, if I'm casting to them, shaky head.
What about,
like I would never throw a shaky head in a pond.
No.
Like I'm going to flip because I would rather dissect the water vertically than I would at an angle.
Right. Do you think, how about this? Largemouth versus spotted bass, does it make a difference? Because I will say this, if you look on most spotted bass lakes, they're throwing shaky heads. And you think that's because of the casting?
It's because of where spot's set up.
And I think it's the depth too. You got to think about these herring lakes. All of them are pretty deep, and you got these steep contours. Whereas like you're going to Gunnersville or Chickamauga, like it's a lot flatter of a playing field, I feel like.
Well, that's a good point. So you agree with that there, Farmer, what he just said?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that makes sense. Anybody tried those spot removers? I have. That's a Buckeye lure product, right?
I think so.
Yeah, so pretty good. I mean, pretty good. It's just you fish with what you like. But I have thrown them with and done just fine. George Thornton right there. What size shaky head do you throw with the Magnum finesse worm?
3/16 or the quarter. I don't really deviate on my shaky head sizes. 3/16 if I want that more wide fall or quarter ounce if I want it falling kind of faster.
You know what? I don't like throwing a quarter ounce. Just it's almost like throwing a half ounce or 3/4 ounce.
Yeah, it's
jig.
a little.
It
It's
just feels
heavy.
different on the bottom.
It's heavy, but when I'm throwing a quarter, I'm not throwing it on a spinning rod.
True.
When I'm throwing a quarter, I've got it on a bait caster, and I'm pitching it in front of docks, pole docks or something like that, where I want that. I still want that spiral, but I want it a lot tighter.
Yeah,
right.
I don't want it. I don't want that big wide just fall.
Because that wide fall, I feel like is a lot better offshore when you got all that surface area to work with. Whereas if you want to hold it tighter to cover, you're going to be trying to get it as tight to that pole or that lay down or whatever you want it to stay in tight to the cover.
For sure, makes sense. So, hey, somebody give me an update on the Braves game too, because I know some of you guys are listening or watching it too. Crawfish are more active in low light, so they'll definitely be munching craw early and late.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's a very good point.
Oh yeah.
Now,
but what else is active at morning and night too?
Everything's active.
Well, I mean, yeah, but bluegill is what I'm saying.
Everything's active in the mornings. That's why the feed window's so good. A morning bite's so good.
Yeah.
Everything is feeding. The shadows that hide bass, then they can ambush. That's why the power bite's so good in the morning. And
you got to think about the food chain too. I mean, it's not just down to bait fish. You got
Chris,
your insects and the stuff that the herring are feeding on, like all the phytoplanktons and all that fun stuff. Like that's why you're not necessarily targeting those herring fish unless it's like a herring spawn super early, because they got to have that sun to pull them up and be up, whereas the threadfin will be up shallow when it's low light.
Y'all guys are throwing out some good stuff tonight. Y'all are throwing out some good stuff, but you know what though? I love you talking about community and all that. With all these, I can say, hey guys, Brave score. I got guys like, hey, Danny needs a Brave score.
Exactly.
You guys don't know how much I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So thank you guys. I love it.
The tip of the eighth.
The tip of the eighth. That's what Mrs. Pruitt's going to get. She won't say the eighth, though.
And maybe an 1/8 ounce shaky head.
No doubt like that. Yeah. Oh, thank God she's driving back from Florida and not watching tonight right there. So Ryan says, Farmer clearly had pet crawfish growing up. Dude knows his stuff, how they run, how they detach themselves from their cross. Listen, he grew up in Fannin County. They ain't much to do up there in Fannin County.
Well, I picked this up from a pro at one time. They'll go out. They've got crawfish traps.
Yeah.
And before big tournaments or something like that, if they think they're eating on crawfish, they'll take those crawfish traps and drop them off in the lake and catch crawfish and look at them, and they'll mimic what the crawfish look like.
Slick right there.
And that's not cheating either.
Wow.
It's not, because all you're doing is looking at the forage.
Yeah.
Now, I got a question. Wait a second. Would that be illegal for a Bassmaster Elite?
No.
He can do that.
Yes.
I was just curious.
I would assume,
You can go out and trap some crawfish.
You're not using a crawfish as bait. You're trying to match the hatch.
Listen, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just curious. You know, it's kind of a touchy subject with rules.
And the best way I found to do it is go to a bridge where there's a ton of rock and drop that thing off there and leave it there for 4 or 5 hours, either with some bacon, bread, and
I ain't giving up no bacon.
Go get you some pig's feet, man.
Yeah, maybe that. But I'm not giving up my bacon.
Put some onion. Onion's got some drawing power to it.
Onion.
I don't know what they're back when we used to catch creek minnows and stuff like that all the time. Some bread and some cut up onion.
That sounds like lunch to me, though.
Yeah.
And it will attract them, and then you can pull them up and see what color. Do they have a bunch of orange hue to them? Do they have mostly green pumpkin? Like right now, the crawfish have a lot of orange in them.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be 150, crawfish traps along the this weekend. What the hell are you doing? I'm lobster hunting right there.
Lobster hunting.
Do you guys think a worm that's ribbed texture versus smooth can make the difference? Oh, I could go a lot of places with that. I'm gonna be good with that. Rib versus smooth.
Well, a ribbed worm will hold bubbles. When you throw it out there, it'll hold bubbles, and when it hits the bottom, it actually makes a little bit of a bubble spit right there, and it'll actually attract them to it. And something's going on.
It holds scent better too.
Oh, let me ask you a scent question real quick. Okay, all right, let's do it. I'll get to the rest of the questions here in a second. So, I've always been curious. I see guys spraying scent on jigs. I see them spraying scent on worms. Got no problem with that. It's the guys that spray it on a crankbait or a fast-moving bait. That's a reaction bite. Are they wasting their time putting scent of any kind on a fast-moving bait?
But that's where it also goes down to, like, I know Matt Pangerak was just talking on BTL the other day about how he rubs this scent into the grooves of his jerk baits because it flattens out the chrome a little bit. So he's like, when he's on herring lakes and things like that, it flattens out because you think about the back of a herring is a pretty dull color, like down their back.
Right.
But the side is the flash. And so when you have an all chrome bait, or like a mixed stick is a good one. Like it's when it's all shiny, you can kind of dull it down to where that light will refract differently.
So, but he's using it for a different purpose.
But you get the benefit of having scent and a light refraction as well.
Okay, so I agree with the light refraction, but the scent, I've just always been curious because you're moving it so fast.
Now, a crankbait, I don't see
I don't see that
because it's constantly coming.
Yeah.
You throw pauses into it, but it's not you're throwing a pause in and it sits there for 10 seconds.
Jerk bait's a little bit different.
You're throwing a pause in it for half a second and then you're starting back up.
Yeah.
Jerk bait, I see because I don't know how many times I've seen them come up underneath a jerk bait and sit under it and go, no. And we're all up. Now, if it got scent on it and they can taste it,
that's a good
they
point.
might inhale it.
Okay.
And think about if you grab a herring out of a live well, you've got some herring left on your hand. You got that little bit of that slime coat, couple scales, things like that. So like think about they've got that coat, but then you've never picked one up and not gotten anything on your hand like ABS plastic or something like that to where it's like super slick. So I think it gives it just a little bit more natural.
Okay, listen. But now is that he said he rubs it in? Is he using more of a paste type?
Yeah, it's more of like a chapsticky bait fuel spike stick. That kind of stuff.
All right, I got that. So yeah, Jeremiah, they do have BFS braid.
Yep. We dropped that last summer. It was 2 summers ago because I was fishing the St. Lawrence River Open with the BFS braid prototype in it, and I caught a 4.5 pound smallmouth on an eco rig on the 6 pound on the BFS rod. It was pretty fun.
That's badass.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That
was in the Open too. That was cool.
Who is going kayak fishing this weekend other than me? Not I. I see. Hopefully the rain will move out and you'll have some time to do it. All right, you might have said something like this, but let's do this again for Disco there. What colors are our crawfish now? Right now?
Green pumpkin with orange accents.
Already got the orange accents going on.
Well, they've had them, but I mean, as soon as the water gets hot, they start eating on the little bugs and stuff that are even in that garlic grass that we hate so much. They're down there crawling around eating it. When they eat grass, they turn red and orange.
Yeah. Far Dog, what's going on, fellas? Been battling this early fall transition in far southeast Oklahoma, but every day has been 98 degrees with warm nights. We feel your pain. It's been hot here too. So we were talking about earlier, turnover could have been slowed down on our lakes because of the heat that we've had like that. So just keep pecking away. It's going to happen. We all know that. So what else we got going? Lots of luck with the monsoon that's coming in. I'm telling you, it's coming. You better have your gutters cleaned out. Let's see. Cat guys in Kentucky constantly get hybrids on chicken liver, and they love worms. Now, that's true. I know a lot of guys that striper fish in the rivers with chicken livers. You ever seen guys do that?
No, never heard of that.
Well, they get cats and stripers.
We used to do it growing up on Lake Norman all the time. I know it's not a river, but chicken liver. My mom always talks about. She's like, you used to just say, "Bring me another chicken liver, and I'm gonna catch me a catfish."
Listen, I like chicken liver. You like chicken liver?
No,
fried chicken liver. Really?
Dude, I'm all about the breast these days. Chicken breast.
I'm glad you clarified that. Because listen, I'm looking at you going, there's 100 different ways I can go with that right there. But right above that, Mr. Jake Maddox. Appreciate you joining us tonight. He was just on the show a couple weeks ago. I hear Clint buys pounds of crawfish to bait backwater ponds, and that's how he catches big spotted fish on Lanier.
100%.
100%. Hey, if it works, if it works.
And bluegill. He didn't even bring up the bluegill.
He didn't even bring it up. So like that, Jake, appreciate you watching us tonight, buddy. Discover Bass Adventure. Good question. What do y'all think about the recent hype with the JDM scent powder?
It's legit.
It's what?
It's legit, but it's hard to get.
It's legit, but it's hard to get.
Yeah, Ian
That's
ordered
called
some.
marriage.
Ian ordered some from Japan, and it bounced back through customs, and it got taken away as drugs.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, so he paid like $40 for it to get it from Japan, and they bounced it back through customs. He couldn't get it.
Sounds like our postal service and government at work, stuff like that. Even if you're a postal worker, I do appreciate you. We'll blame it on the other people. Really, though.
Yeah.
They couldn't figure out that it was, could you see the cartel coming in? Like, middleman is fish bait.
But Taku's been playing around with that powder for years.
What is it about the powder that's so good?
I think it's just there could be a little light refraction. I don't want to make everything about that, but I think it's also the fact of like it's caked on there. It's a different presentation than a lot of our scents. Like a lot of our scents are very oily based. Like that kind of gives it more of a dry texture. Kind of like how when Max scent came out, it was the first worm that you grabbed that wasn't a slick piece of rubber or soft plastic. Like it was actually like kind of a rougher, more matte feeling, like pasty, powdery feeling on the Max scent. So I feel like it's the same principle as far as the powder goes.
I'm glad somebody mentioned it.
Who? What?
Gizzards.
Okay, so
that is one bait fish that gets forgot about.
Listen, I'm sitting here, and this is no lie. I'm reading the comments. I see Brad Thornton. Recognize the name. Gizzards. I'm like, what in the hell? Which way is he going with that? I had no idea what he was talking about.
I think he's talking about. Is he not talking about chicken gizzards?
No, he's talking about chicken gizzards.
Oh, wow. I'm talking gizzard shad.
Well, let's okay. Now let's. We don't know what the hell we're.
Maybe clarify that.
But I'm looking at him going gizzards. I had no idea what angle he was taking. Okay,
I'm going gizzard.
Chicken gizzards are okay too, but I like livers better. All right.
This time of year, because we all have that bait fish pull shallow,
right?
The gizzards go with them.
Oh yeah.
So you can throw.
It is like the ugly stepchild of the bait fish.
The cast OG, the 20 gram. You can cast the flutter spoon shallow and get some grown ones that are up there eating on gizzard shad. A glide bait is great this time of year.
100%.
When they get up there.
The fall is my favorite time to throw a glide bait because you can speed it up, you can slow it down. Like when I'm throwing a glide in summertime, a lot of time it's a choppy style, like a shad or something like that, or a clutch darter is a great one to throw. But then I'll go more towards like a clutch boss or something that's like a little bit more of a glide because you can really work that bait. Like I really like a glide bait that I can control the speed. It doesn't matter. I can throw that bait year round and I control the speed. So when I'm either I'm watching it on going down the side of a shade line on a dock, I can figure out like, do I want to make it dart in and dart out? Like make it look as natural as possible. Or am I chopping a bait offshore and trying to get them to react to it just like you would a walking bait? It's a subsurface walking bait. It's a hard plastic fluke is a good way to look at fishing a glide bait is fish it how you would a fluke. You're not going to be burning a fluke like you are right now here in 2 months out there on Lanier. Like you're not going to be burning something like that.
Well, I like the chads. I like something I can chop fast this time of year because I'm covering water. And then I like a glide. If I have to slow down, the one that'll kick way out and then kick back. Or another good one is the multi-jointed, like the bull shad.
Yep.
I like the bull shad this time of year because I'm burning it shallow.
Right. Well, speaking of shallow, Dave was catching fish on Gunnersville with an A-rig. And like,
yeah, I mean, he was.
Dude, like in 5 foot of water with 3 foot of grass, and he's throwing an A-rig across the top of that stuff. That was crazy to me.
The A-rig on Gunnersville is just, it catches fish. Well, A-rig catches fish everywhere.
Yeah, but that just shallow because you're talking about throwing stuff shallow. I was just like, never would have thought about that. And no, Cast is not sponsoring tonight's show. But if Cast would like to be a sponsor of the live well, we're open to any and all offers right there for sure.
But gizzards are the forgotten.
They
forage.
Hell, we've talked about bluegill more
Yeah,
tonight
they're
than we had
forgotten
gizzards.
too.
I forgot
There's all
about
kinds
that.
of misfit
Yeah.
bait fish
Yeah,
out there.
Herring and threadfin get the praise in any lake. Or well, your herring lakes, herring get the praise. When it's just threadfin get the praise because they're easier to target.
Yeah.
They're easier to target fish with.
And it's a lot more visual. You see threadfin getting blown out of the water. You see herring getting blown out of the water. When do you see bluegill unless you're cruising up shallow and get lucky and see one get busted
when
up
do
on
you
the
see
bank?
when do you see a 5-pounder chasing gizzard down the bank?
Exactly. You don't.
Only place I've ever seen it's Rocky Mountain PFA because it has a ton of gizzard shad in it. Them gizzard shad are like huge.
Has some monster gizzard shad in it, and a lot of them.
But you're right. We never do talk about gizzard shad. They're kind of boring.
Depends on boring.
They're just
Are you
boring.
looking for 5 bites in one day?
Braves won.
They're kind of like the meatloaf.
Yeah.
Now listen, this part
That's
right
the
here.
meat and taters
I like,
of the
I
bass
like
world.
meatloaf though.
Yeah.
I like meatloaf. And Brad says those gizzards are delicious with some hot sauce. That's exactly the way I eat my chicken livers: ketchup and some.
You can have them chicken livers.
Oh my goodness, you're such a loser. Chicken livers with hot sauce and ketchup mixed together. That is a meal. And yes, Justin, it is a kayak behind us. So we only have threadfin and gizzard shad. Oh, I saw the camera flips. I didn't know that if I needed to move, or you're trying to get an up close shot of my t-shirt right here. Hey, Justin, let me do this. Justin Spees. This is a t-shirt. Give me front and center right here. He wore his Led Zeppelin. Not there. Look at there, baby. He wore his Led Zeppelin shirt last time he was here. So we only have threadfin and gizzard shad on my Highland reservoirs. And I would say that that's the predominant here, but we do have pretty good populations of gizzard. And that might be why we don't talk about them as much, because they're not as – are they as –
There is
many?
predominant, but herring and threadfin outshine them.
And I feel like gizzards are harder to pattern and harder to target because they do have such a mind of their own to where they're going. Like the herring, there's so much of them all over the lake that they're easier to pattern.
So let me ask you, if you wanted to pattern, you do Alatuna or Lanier, either one you do. If you wanted to try to pattern gizzard shad, where the hell would you go this time of year in the fall?
Creeks.
So they're going to be shallow.
Creeks, yeah.
That's where I'd be. I'd be in creek mouth or in the backs of creeks looking for gizzards.
Makes sense. And is that more of a largemouth area? Do largemouth kind of target the gizzard shad a little bit more than say a spot?
I mean, once a spot gets up to that 4 and 5 pound range, they can target those gizzards too, and they can target the gizzards when they're small.
True.
But your big gizzards are going to be your 5+ largemouth.
Yeah.
Right.
You're looking big bite when you're going bull shad and big glide bait targeting those, or shad targeting those bigger gizzards.
I got you. Justin Speaks, no, that is a Festive Waters kayak. We are partnering with them a little bit to sell in the store here. So it is, and the shirt is all right there. Actually, I wore the shirt tonight because I had a customer that would come in, and every time he'd have this shirt on, and I'm like, dude, I love your shirt. Everybody knows I'm a Van Halen fan. Well, he come in last week, and he had a package. And he threw it on the counter, and he said, and I opened it up, and it was this shirt. I'm like, that's why I say I love our customers and our viewers and all that. They're just the best. Would Ackworth Dam be good after all this rain? Depends on what side of the dam you're on. If you're on that little lake, there might be stuff floating in that. That lake gets a sewage spill about once or twice a year, it seems like. So we definitely got the chicken liver controversy going right there. I love chicken livers.
They're always there in that moving water right there, down there at the bottom of the dam at Ackworth. It's just depending on what size of fish are there.
I know if John Aldred was fishing Ackworth, he'd be in 2 foot of water. That's where he goes.
He loves throwing them big baits.
Big baits. Out of curiosity, has anyone experimented with the goofy looking dice lures?
No.
Have you thrown them?
Yeah, I've thrown them. I still haven't caught one on it. I threw it all summer. I mean, I tried a drop shot, weightless, putting nail weight in it, putting on the core tackle, like all kinds of different tries.
I'm not wasting my money.
I will say this, that Tim had some. We just had some, let's just say, experimental cubes here, and we were putting jig material through it. It looked pretty cool. I don't know that I'd fish it, but
what's
it looked cool.
My thing is, what's it mimicking around here? Nothing.
And that might be why they hit it. I ain't seen that one before.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know the answer, but listen, the Japanese come up with it and they brought it over here. Them guys can fish. So and they use it on high pressured lakes.
And you got to think like Japan is 5 years ahead of where we're at, and like with technology, with their fishing pressure, with their bait technology. So I mean, you got to think like if that's where they're going, then maybe that's where their bait fish are going, or are smaller, or they're just trying to get more finessey. Like there's definitely a lot of different factors to that.
Freshwater octopus, absolutely. So Tim McGuire, I've tried the dice so far, nothing. Right above that, Jason Jones, appreciate you joining us tonight. About 2 weeks ago, I saw a gizzard shad that was dying and came to the surface on Luna. I think you're probably talking about tuna, maybe. That was every bit of 142 inches long. I'm telling you, I've seen.
They're some of the biggest gizzard shad I've ever seen on Altoona. They're huge.
There's parts of Rocky Mountain, if you go over with your sonar, the gizzards, you can be in 25 foot of water, and it looks like basically a wall of bait from the surface all the way down, and just massive schools.
I think I still have a picture of a 12-inch gizzard shad on Chattooga that I foul hooked with a glide bait up under a dock, and I thought it was a bass, and I was like, that's a gizzard shad.
I know, they get big.
Yeah,
I've been out crappie fishing on Altoona and catch a gizzard shad because they're predatory fish too.
Mm-hmm.
They'll hit a small little minnow and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you'll catch one. And I hooked it. What the hell have I got? And pull it in. It's like a 10, 11.
They are
gizzard.
like that.
That's wild.
Alan, MCD82, awesome podcast. Thank you very much. Awesome guest, awesome viewers. What areas do I need to focus on at Alatoona the 1st of October?
Did he say shallow or just?
He didn't say. He just said what areas. So you're going to go shallow.
I'm 1st of October. I'm targeting creek mouse.
Creek mouse.
Because water's not cooled off enough to push everything back. What lakes doesn't flip just yet.
Right.
I'm still in the mouths to the main lake, but I'm still shallow because they're going to push stuff up in the mornings. But once morning bite's over, then I'll push back out. They'll still be in the brush piles like they always are. They'll still be out on the point ledges. It's just I'd start out with a buzz bait, and then I'd go out over brush piles and I'd throw a flutter spoon or some type of straight tail minnow.
Yeah.
Over the piles.
Have you seen the Kayak straight tail minnows?
No, I haven't.
I got some coming. I haven't seen them, but I just wonder if you'd throw them yet. They look
I
good.
hadn't tried them. There's so many minnows that have come out.
They are.
It's pretty crazy. Like I remember talking to Ryan Hanks about it probably a year and a half ago now when we went into the prototype phase with the Echo. I was like, man,
I love the Echo.
I was like, I don't know what people are doing, but I was like, dude, we just got to cut the tail off a Prodigy and make it a fork tail, and it'll sell. And he's like, I don't know, we'll see or whatever. And then we got the first run of them. We all went out and caught them on it. We're like, okay, we need to put this in production now.
For sure.
And I mean, he paid extra to airship them over here so we could have them in time to be able to release it, because we knew that like getting in front of this movement would be important. Of like,
it seems like everybody's got one now.
Yeah, exactly.
But I know, and what is that color? Oh, good group. Start throwing out Echo colors.
Ozark, blue.
No,
Appalachia. Yeah.
The Appalachia. I love that color.
Yeah,
I love that color.
Yep.
Do y'all have sculpins in the lakes where you guys fish? Not that I'm aware of. Not what I would say is a true sculpin like up north.
I don't think so.
So no, I don't think that's
Closest thing we've got to the
creek
sculpin is the creek chubs and those hog suckers. I don't even know what the name of them are that are in creeks that stay on the bottom.
Do you know in season 2 of the Real American Road Trip, you're going to see me fishing the Hiawassee River with Ryan Sheffield, and he catches some monster trout. You know what I caught?
Hog sucker.
About a damn 2-pounder.
You never hear anybody catching those things.
And that's what the guide said. He goes, that because they're bottom feeders.
They're bottom feeders.
This boy right here drifted a fly right down the run. It hit. Now I set the hook. And I'm like, ooh, that's the ugliest. Only a mother could love that fish. So, ugly, but it was pretty cool. We need a Japanese dude to go in with us in lure production here in the USA.
They're doing it left and right.
You probably got a bunch out there, and vice versa. I mean, there's so much cooperation now between the countries and anglers, because I mean, let's just face it. The reality is, right now, anything that's really new, that's where it's coming from.
And like we're all about the it factor, right? Like we want to find something that is going to get bit that's different. Like the whole reason cast is even talked about these days, not to talk about casts, but we pulled a GT lure that was made for catching giant fish on the Great Barrier Reef in Australia to catching spotted bass on it because it was something different. Like, that's the biggest thing, is we're always chasing that edge. So like we're trying to order these Japanese baits on eBay because there's something different that maybe has a little bit different of an action or a different application. But like ultimately at the end of the day, like we're all just trying to figure out what's different, what's going to make it give you that it factor.
Yeah. You see Dane's comment right there?
Yeah, he's mad at me.
Great show. How do you make 2 loyal supporters mad in less than an hour and 45 minutes? Gave up the juice and Fight Club both in one show. Listen, we didn't give up specific things about the Fight Club. Fight Club and Fight Club stays in Fight Club right there. But we kind of gave the broadest of strokes, Dane. You know, Farmer talked about the buzz bait, but he gave the broadest of strokes so that your secret is still intact. But I'm gonna tell you what's funny, and I won't say it, but this cat right here to my right's got a video in the basically the exact same spot,
sitting in the same area.
Same area. Why Japan? Really, because in Japan, there's only X amount of water there, and the population is so crazy as far as pressure that the guys in the know, they're trying to come up with something different. So that's kind of why you see every new kind of little novelty or thing. That's why it's coming out right there. Farm talked about Fight Club.
I didn't talk about that Fight Club, Paul.
Oh, so you got another Fight Club.
It's a lake. It's not a.
Oh, okay, I got you. Buying JDM is much cheaper now with the currency exchange rate. A pack of depths is like $4 for Sakamata shad if you can find them. But that's kind of the problem, is finding them. That's why everybody's throwing the Zoom wing flukes right now, pretty much. Now, you said something a little earlier. We made a comment about that.
What about the wing
fluke? The difference in the wing fluke and the Sakamata.
Yeah, so I got to play with them this weekend. I just bought a pack, and the durability is definitely different. It's like more of that zoomed durability. But it doesn't sink near as fast as a Sakamata does. Like you got a lot more salt in the Sakamata. But I think the winged fluke, since it's not as soft, it's got more rigidity that allows the wings to actually make it vibrate and kind of shimmy back and forth, which I think it vibrates and shimmies better, especially on herring lakes when you're trying to burn something and get that reaction bite, versus where a Sakamata, a lot of these guys, what made it popular was in February. So that's when you're shaking them in out deep. So that's a different type of action than summertime when you're trying to burn something and get that secondary action of vibration.
I got you. All right. So guys, if you got any last questions, we're getting towards the end of the show. So, and we're getting in trouble from the guys that were telling stuff. See, we dropped juice here. So if you got any more questions, make sure you get them out. I'm going to let you two guys, I'm going to hit you with one last question. Both want you to answer. We'll start with you, Clint. What is the best technique for catching bass in the fall, according to you?
Best technique, I would say a shaky head.
Shaky head, tried and true shaky head.
Yep. I mean, if you had to give me one rod off my deck and I had to go catch a limit on Lanier, that's what I'd throw, or Allatoona or anywhere else. I would find a way to make them eat a shaky head, and you'd have to change up presentations and figure out which fall rate they want, or if they want it spiraling or pendulum or whatever. But like I said, I throw one worm on a shaky head and that's it. And I could make them eat it any month of the year.
Perfect answer. All right. Farmer, in the fall, what is the best bait and presentation to catch bass? According to you.
Jig.
We talked about a jig a lot tonight. We talked about it some, but a jig.
I is like him with the shaky head. It's a confidence bait as far as fishing goes, and they'll bite a shaky head year round. They'll bite a jig year round. I can go fish a jig and catch a good limit on Lanier, Altoona.
Yeah. Most simple. There's confidence. So Dane, we got this hairy fella in here tonight running the board. His name's Josh. I know a lot of you don't know him, but now Josh came in to run the board for us tonight. So, and he always, as always, does a great job. The reason that the kayak's behind me with all the proper lighting and everything is because of Josh, just as always. And he does a great job. So, is that camera working, Josh? Put the camera on his face. Let's show the world Josh. Is it working? You got to figure out which button. There he is back there. So there's Josh. And he listen, you stick him in front of a thing with a beer, and he's good to go right there. So can't go wrong with the jig. Is a 4/0 hook necessary for these jigs?
No, but
it don't hurt. I will say this. A lot of people think a 4 or 5/0 is too big for spotted bass. That's not true.
No.
That is not true. So let's see. Drop shot will always be my go-to bait for the fall. Huh? Listen, no, but drop shot catches fish.
It catches fish. God almighty, you have to go through so many little ones to catch a good one. It's the same thing with a Ned rig.
And the little ones tear up your drop shot more than any other fish in the lake.
It's the same thing with the daggum Ned rigs.
Okay, so hey, listen. So Rob's watching tonight. Spot choker. The wing fluke does not work good on the spot choker.
They give it too much.
Listen, now I'm gonna tell you this. So listen. It's interesting you say that because the man right here, you were telling me you thought it was amazing on it, right? Mm-hmm. You thought the vibration they gave was amazing
for this time of year, yeah.
This time of year, but teach his own.
Mm-hmm.
Teach his own. So, who's bona fide? Festive Waters. There you go, right there. Everybody wants to know. It's not my kayak. It is not my kayak. Dang shaky head. I wish I could figure it out and had the patience. Surf Dad. It really is not. If you're working a Ned rig, you're working very slow. Shaky head, you can work a little bit faster.
So another thing with a shaky head, I'm always
gives it too much wobble.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just sorry.
Okay.
No,
you're good. But I was just gonna say another thing with a shaky head is like all my buddies like Paul Bork and Ian Freeman always give me so much crap because I'm always dragging something so slow. But like another thing, like if I was going to go out right now, the first thing I'd start with is casting it out and just letting it hit the bottom and just dragging it super slow. And then when I start getting that interaction, like I can always work up, I can always work it faster. But like I know that they'll eat it slower more often than they will eat it fast. Like if I'm going to pop it or try to focus on the fall or things like that. So being able to start small by dragging and then work your way up with the speed is one way to really dial in a shaky head and figure out how they're going to eat it. Because sometimes, dude, I'm sitting there dragging it, like just keeping my line tight, sitting there, and all of a sudden it's heavy. Like I did it the other night on Allatoona at midnight and got a bite on a shaky head because I was just sitting there just dragging.
Yeah, sometimes you have to, for sure.
Yeah.
I've heard that north of the dam is juice in the fall on tuna, but can I flip a jig in the river for better fish?
Yes.
In fact, a lot of the tournaments get won up the river, especially your like wintertime tournaments. If you got the jet boat that can get up there.
Let's see. A lot of your tournaments are won on the north end of the Lanier anyway, because it's mostly largemouth.
Right.
Your spots aren't as big as say. But
what about tuna?
Oh
yeah. Same thing.
Oh yeah.
That makes sense. And how do we keep boats from breaking down on Lake Allatoona so my fishing trip doesn't get disrupted every 45 minutes?
I don't know. There's a curse on Allatoona apparently. You broke down.
Yeah.
Me and Dane broke down.
Well, at least you ain't got ghosts. At least you ain't got. For some reason, Allatoona don't have ghosts like Lanier has. So at least
it's got electronic ghosts.
Electronic ghosts. Ken Pruitt, frog in the fall. Damn, there's that Gunnersville coming out of them.
Gunnersville.
We didn't talk Gunnersville much. Now we got to talk about everything else. We're gonna have to circle back to Gunnersville.
I have a question for you, Shaky Head.
Oh, okay.
Have you ever tried that trick of putting a toothpick in the tail to make the tail curl up and make the?
Does it work?
It works.
Yeah, I think it works, especially on something that's a lot more salt dense, like a worm that you got is more dense, and like I think the shape of the tail matters a lot on a shaky head, to where like the reason a trick worm is so famous is think about that little bulbous tip on the trick worm, giving it that displacement of the water, especially on the fall. Same thing with like a Senko or something like that. It's all about the shape of the tail. So I think that being able to put a toothpick in the end of it definitely helps give it that different action in the water.
You guys are so good tonight like this. So anyway, David, black bears do swim. They go across Latham all the time. So that's something.
Dude, I saw otters on Allatoona on Sunday. I've never seen otters. Yeah, they're legit otters. I got a video. I'll show you.
Okay, so let's see. We'll get to Dane. We're going to end the show with Dane's question, but let's hit these other ones. Alatoona was good with a spot chuck with electric shad and a buzz bait.
Yeah, they're the ones that won the benefit tournament, and he caught his big lip on a buzz bait and then finished out his 12-pound limit with 3 fish on a spot choker with electric shad.
Them things just catch fish year round.
Yeah,
they do. Which head do you prefer on a shaky head?
I like the queen tackle, just the tungsten shaky head.
Makes sense. You?
I like the spot spot sticker.
I like the owners.
Yeah, owners are good.
I like
I'll get the spot stickers because they've got the longer hook in them, so I feel like I stick fish a little bit better with them.
Yeah,
but I get I don't get the spiral ones.
Gotcha. So the shaky head chicken rig, I threw the chicken rig at Gunnersville for sure. Now let's end the show with this question. Farmer, because I was there and I don't think I've gotten this whole story yet. Tell us about catching Tim's Gunnersville fish, because you guys were on a different boat than I was. So I'm not privy to this story. So what's the story about Tim's Gunnersville fish?
Well, according to Tim, and it's kind of off of me, I guess, but we were fishing the last little stretch before we were going to pull the boat out. And these kids or these guys were sitting on the bank fishing. Well, they had done what apparently 1,000 people had done and thrown over the telephone line. Well, they asked for our help, and we went over there, and I cut it with my teeth, and Tim got his scissors out. Well, I cut it with my teeth, and Tim went to go put his scissors up, and I threw the guys their bait back while I was on the front deck. So I got on the trolling motor and moved it and tossed a buzz bait over there in a little pocket next to the bridge where that 5.5 came up and ate it.
That's the one that was in the picture of the show tonight. Yeah,
that's the big one.
So how the hell does Tim think that was his?
Because I took the front of the boat over.
Oh, I got you. All right.
And caught it in front of those guys that said they'd been there for a few hours and hadn't got a bite.
So you flexed.
A little bit.
All right, real quick. I said that was the last question. We got one more. I want to make sure. Scott Hedrick, best jointed swim bait for October. Best jointed swim bait.
Magic Swimmer.
I like the sashimi. I've been playing around with the sashimi.
The Spro sashimi. That's
one of those.
And I'll put lead wire on the hooks because I think it bites better. Yeah.
I bet it helps it cast a little bit better too, don't it? A little more extra weight.
That's
the only complaint I've had about the sashimi is it doesn't cast as good as the
when you burn it, like what he's talking about, putting lead wire over it. Mm-hmm. When you burn it, it stays lower in the water column. It's not up.
Yeah,
it doesn't blow out.
I got you. All right, well, guys, we're going to end it with that. I think tonight, if you watch this show all the way through, there's been some good stuff given up. So, Farmer, Clint, guys, I appreciate you coming in. You guys in the comment section, again, I say it all the time. You guys are what makes the show. So you ask good questions. You make my job easier. Good guests, dropping the juice. I appreciate all of you guys. So thank you guys for coming up, hanging with me. Thursday, we got Emil Wagner is going to be in-house, and weather permitting, and I say weather permitting because Paul Marks Jr. was supposed to go out of town, but if this hurricane messes up those plans, we might have him in studio as well. So we might have 2 future elite anglers that are going to be talking to us. And I think it's really cool because we've watched these kids come up through the ranks, and they're working their ass off to be where they're at. And both of them, I don't care what anybody says about this younger generation. I think both of them could probably go out here in this road out here, Highway 53, outside the shop and catch a bass somehow like 100%. That. So,
and they've worked for it.
They've worked, yeah. So it's nothing's been given to them. But anyway, guys, listen, we appreciate you guys. We hope you'll join us. Go Braves. Everybody, with this hurricane coming up through here, stay safe. Make sure you got some batteries, gas, and all your stuff charged. Be prepared. So, and one thing too, I want to say this: guys like Tim and Dane are cops, and then you've got Jonathan who works for the EMC. When we have this bad weather and everything like this, it's their asses that are out there still having to work in it. So, appreciate what you guys do. Farmer, if my power goes off, it better be the first one put back on. Okay, so I know you got control.
We got to have the show, so I got to make sure
it has to be on at Fish North Georgia.
Fish North Georgia's got power,
or either you guys can buy us one of them really nice generators for out back like that. We're always looking for a sponsor. But anyway, guys, we appreciate it. Great show. You guys have a great couple of days. We'll see you on Thursday.